everyone, and welcome to the Royal News Network Saturday morning live stream. I hope you guys are all having a super fantastic and amazing Saturday morning or evening, wherever you are. My name is Brittany, for those of you who are not aware, and I'm having to wear my glasses today because my eyes have been bugging me. So, guys, good morning. Like, this has been sort of a somewhat quiet week in royal world. So we do have, obviously, Prince William's homeless initiative and project being featured on a documentary. I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but if you are in the States, it's on Disney Plus. We also have Prince Harry showing up at NATO, telling them that they should, I think, support the Invictus Games. And I'm like, it's just not, it's, again, we'll say the Invictus Games, the idea is a really great thing. It's just not making any money, I don't think. So Prince Harry looking for some cash for it, I think. Then we also have, of course, Harry and Meghan's purchase in Portugal. People are still talking about that. We just have a huge flooding in Spain. So Valencia, so the king is busy, focused on that. We also have Miss Pippa showing her hot stuff today. She says, good morning. Says, good morning, Miss Pippa. Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to turn on our sign. And I think, yeah, it is that button. There we go. Okay, so welcome to November. It is finally, I think, chilly this morning a bit. So, good morning. We got Letitia here. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Brittany. I think that Princess Diana could have been so proud of William for doing such a great job he's doing so far and how great a father and husband is. Yeah, I think Princess Diana would be absolutely thrilled with how William's doing and how well and successful he's become. I think she would be immensely proud of that. The initiatives he's chosen, his family in particular, how he's taking care of them, I think would be a huge, huge thing. And I think Diana would be just, and again, so incredibly proud of him. We also have Maria here. Angela's Marin Martinez. Good morning, Brittany, Miss Pippa, and everyone. Rebecca says, good morning, Brittany and Miss Pippa. Do you plan on reading James Middleton's book? So actually, I had asked the publisher for a copy and they said they sent me one and it never arrived. So I will have to either circle back to them or just buy the book myself. Sometimes I think there's actually a benefit in buying something yourself because then maybe you don't feel the obligation, you could say, to have a good report. Not that I wouldn't, but it's just one of those things. I did actually get to, well, I'm reading this book, which has been super nice. I wish they had said born, beheaded, died or something. Because this is divorced, beheaded, died is like, the titles of a lot of King Henry VIII books. This one goes over like little bits about all the English kings. So that makes it super interesting. I also got this one on Richard II and Henry IV, and then this one on Henry V. So got a couple new ones here to add to the collection of the many, many books I need to finish. But yes, I do want to get to the James Middleton one, and I'm a bit bummed that didn't come in via the publisher, but that is what happens sometimes. All right, we got Valerie. Diana is turning over in her grave the way Harry has become. Yes, I think Diana would be horrified by Harry. I think, like, the idea that people put out there, especially Harry and Meghan, that, Diana and Meghan would have been like the best of buds. No, they would have loathed each other. They would have 100% loathed each other. I think when it comes to Diana and Meghan, they only have their worst qualities in common, and it would have been caustic. Meghan would have never made it past the first date. Diana would have taken 2 looks at her and go, no. Like pretty much everybody else in Harry's life went, dude, she's not a good one. So we have Diz Fan that says, good morning, Brittany. I'm looking forward to watching Prince William's documentary on Disney Plus. I love how he is continuing his mother's legacy. Yes, I think that is absolutely fantastic. And something that she obviously introduced to him when he was very young. I think that's so important. So yeah, I think myself and others were looking forward to watching it. I just haven't had a chance yet. It's been a kind of, I feel like always towards the end of the month is a very, very busy time. And so I was busy working on a lot of different things. And so I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet. And I'm like one of those people too. I like to do 6 things while watching something. So I haven't had a chance to like sit down and focus and watch. So that will be something hopefully we can do here in the future. We got Annette who gave a super sticker. Why, thank you so much, Annette. I do appreciate it this morning. Okay, let's go over here. We have Azima. Hi, everyone. We got Robert. Good morning, RNN fans. Brittany, you're looking lovely as always. Why, thank you. Well, you couldn't see me yet. I don't look quite as lovely because I'm having to wear my glasses, which I hate. I hate my glasses. I just hate wearing glasses. But I think it's allergies. My eyes have just been so itchy and irritated that I'm like, oh, I can't wear my contacts. And I love wearing my contacts. So Azima says, what exactly Harry is pitching for to NATO? Fundraising for the NX Invictus games? Yeah. And it was kind of hard because it's like I wanted the two titles of each side to kind of rhyme. And it was like frustrating because I was like, couldn't figure out what to say for Harry's, because what to say for Harry's is really complicated. It's like he's pitching to, tell NATO how great the Invictus games is and try to basically try to raise more support. And he teleconferenced in, but he was too busy to actually go in person. And I'm like, really? You're trying to get these people maybe to shell out millions upon millions of dollars for your program. And you can go and do a lot of things, but you can't go and do this. But I guess it's in Brussels. So other people had to travel from far away. So I just found it a little tacky on Harry's part. If he's like really interested in it, he should probably travel and go and not just talk. I mean, if you talk to NATO, it's a good time for a bathroom break there in Brussels. Because it's like he just doesn't have anything to say. And again, I think the Invictus Games is a great idea, but it's a money pit. It is unsustainable the way it is designed. It's like, I think somewhat I was looking at the ticket prices in Canada. They're not bad. It's definitely not a sold out show of yet, although it's sold pretty well. But how much of that is basically friends and family members of those competing? Probably a good chunk. And when it comes to the individual events, I don't think they're just general admission. There's not really like a specific seat you're given. That might have been the case for the other Invictus games as well, but I just think the whole thing is just kind of a money drain, and it's not sustainable the way it is. If Canada has to fork over $30 million to put the games on, and you can't come up with that because of the revenue of the previous games, you've got a really, really big problem. And that's a problem that's not going to go away. It's just going to get worse. Much like the Olympics. The Olympics are a money pit too, in many ways. And they're not even watched as much as they used to be. And when it comes to, let's say, the Invictus Games, that is not watched at all, pretty much. The viewership numbers are very, very bad. And so when when like you put all this together, it just reflects the situation that I just think the games just like there's no there in some ways. Yes, it's great importance to the competitors, but Harry also, I think, portrays it as this is the thing that'll fix veterans, is this. And it's like, no, it's more complicated than that. It's more nuanced than that. But he and Megan are very much like whack-a-mole. They like see a problem, they got one solution. And it's usually the most basic and banal and least thought out. So anyways, yeah. Anna said, I saw a veteran panhandling in Waltham, Massachusetts for Invictus Games. Really? Oh gosh, that's really sad. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, that is very interesting because it's just like, it's hard too because it's like, you kind of feel that bit of that guilt because you want to support. And so it's like there's almost a guilt tripping aspect to it. And so it's just one of those things where I just don't think it's sustainable. All right, Disfan, thank you so much for the tip. What are your thoughts on the royalists limiting their patronages? I like the idea of William focusing on Earthshot and homelessness. I actually don't like it. I think they are better served having lots of patronages. And yes, they only can visit them once every 5 years. But the thing is, I remember reading a report on it. And although it's not a bad idea to have these big projects, what you got to think too is that Earthshot is more international. So it has less of a UK focus. He's going to be the king of the UK, not the king of the world. So having a global, let's say, program is not necessarily going to endear himself to the people he's supposed to be leading. When it comes to homelessness, I do like it because it is a a issue based in the UK, unfortunately, that is not an issue he can ever actually fix. So he can make great strides in homelessness, but it's kind of like something where there's a human factor involved, which means not everybody. It's kind of like when it comes to addiction, not everybody will want to get help. Why are there? Why is no time in human history has there ever been anyone without an addiction to something? Because we're human and we are failures and we have faults and we have sin and all these sorts of things. And so you cannot extract that human factor, which means that there will always be homelessness. There are absolutely people where you can help them, they need help, they want help, they just need a little bit of extra assistance to get from point A to point B. Yes, there are those people. There are other people who like doing it or who don't want help and they prefer to live on the streets because then they don't have to live with accountability. There are those people. So it's an unsolvable issue in many ways, which I know sounds probably crazy because it's like, "Oh, well, you just need more homes." It's not that simple. So, he can make absolutely 100% great strides in addressing all the issues connected to homelessness, but it will never be an issue he fully solves. So, what instead I think William should always do is, yes, have these big programs and initiatives because they will generate more headlines, but when it comes to real support, it's the bread and butter stuff that really is what people love at the end of the day. It's the bread and butter stuff. Going to a random sheep farm somewhere in the heart of the UK in like Yorkshire or something. And yes, it may be off the beaten track. And yes, maybe it'll be kind of dull. But those little engagements and those little patronages actually go a long way. And so I don't think the process of, oh, I only should have like 10 patronages overall because that way I can really focus on those 10. Well, that might be true, but you're also pulled in a lot of different ways, so you can't really fully focus on them either. So it might be better to actually have a lot of them and divvy them out, or have a stronger and larger royal workforce. I think if William's planning on doing just Earthshot and homelessness and then just not really having his younger children be working royals and stuff like that, I mean, it's gonna be rough for the UK, to be sure, because you have the issue potentially with people thinking, "Okay, I'm not really interested in conservation. I'm not really interested in the issue of homelessness, but that's all this guy cares about. He doesn't care about me and my particular issues in my community." And that's where the rub is. That is where the rub is. So, you have to be incredibly careful not to go too far on this. This is why royals go and do a bunch of different things that are both high profile and low profile, because you have to have the mixture. You cannot just rely on having these big projects lead you home. You have to have a variety of things. That's the only way to go forwards. So, anyways, that was a long answer, but I think that's an important thing because it's, yes, the UK has a little bit of a different system, I think, than the other worlds, but it's also a bigger country in terms of just not even totally space, but population. It has like, I mean, there is quite a bit of space up in, Scotland and stuff like that. So you can't like totally ignore a bunch of stuff because like Sweden has an incredibly small population. Don't know what the population in the UK right now is. Probably about, close to 70 million or something like that. And in Sweden it's 10, in Denmark it's 10, in Netherlands it's 10, Belgium about the same, maybe less. Spain is the only other country where they have a pretty sizable population comparable to the UK, and you'll notice their majesties work a lot. And they do a lot of different things. They don't really have like a big overall initiative similar to Earthshot or homelessness. They have other things they're working on, and they do a variety of engagements every week. Now, this week has been different because of the flooding in Valencia, but they are like, when it comes to working royals, the Spanish are the hardest working royals, and I would argue the most visible working royals. And I think that is a really good thing that sometimes the Brits miss out on. So if I was saying to anybody in Europe, "Hey, take this particular path," I would say follow the Spanish. That would be my suggestion. Susan said, "Good morning. I'm from San Diego, California. I hope you're having a fantastic morning. What a great place to be." Chris, hey, from Stockholm. It's 3 p.m. The sun is setting and it's 35 degrees. Oh, ugh, it's chilly. So we are having our Christmas market trip is coming up in a month and a half. If anybody's on that trip on this live stream, I'm so excited. I've been like kind of like grabbing some cold weather items for like the last months, but it hasn't been cold where I'm at. Like we still sometimes hit 80. Don't think we even had a good like strong frost yet, which is pretty rare. It was like actually really warm for Halloween, so a lot of people were out. So, yeah, I'm like I'm super stoked for Sweden, but I'm like also like, whoo. And well, and we were going to the Germany and the Czech Republic for the Christmas market. So we got to bundle up. We got to bundle up. Steven says that Brittany, each Invictus Games is run by a local company that wins a bid from the main London charity. So all the funds are independent of each games. Yeah. So it is kind of, thank you so much for the tip. It's kind of like one of those things where they get corporate sponsors and stuff like that to pick up some of the costs. But it is the government that of Canada that ponied up. The overall government of Canada ponied up 15 million, and then the local British Columbian government ponied up another 15 million. And so my question is like, how are these games sustainable if you have to get other places to put up, $15 million to put these games on? I think that's, or $30 million to put these games on. And then you have the corporate sponsors as well, which covers some of these costs, but not all of these. And my question is, how is this sustainable if you can't sell this for broadcast? I just don't think you can sell it for broadcast. The YouTube numbers are pretty dismal, to be honest. So this is not sellable to broadcast, in my opinion. Broadcast is kind of sort of dead, anyways. So yeah, you'll get more advertising dollars, but they're not going to give you like Olympic numbers for this coverage. They're just not. I've been to the Invictus Games. Like there were parts of it I enjoyed sitting volleyball, but I found swimming very dull. To be honest, that is my complete and honest assessment. And I enjoy swimming in the Olympics. It's not, you could say, my absolute favorite thing, but like I remember being super like enjoying watching for like Michael Phelps and everything in like '08. And that is though because in part it's like very fast and you're seeing people who are at the peak of athleticism, and the Invictus Games is not that. So you have compelling stories, but even the compelling stories in Heart of Invictus could not be told well because I still outpaced the viewership by 100,000 compared to Harry on Netflix. My review of it got 100,000 more views. So Invictus Games has a lot of trouble. It can't get eyes on it. And there's sort of a reason for that because it's kind of difficult to watch. And I don't think the Invictus teams, the communications team, is good at selling it yet. And if they sell it not through Harry and Meghan, they focus way too much on Harry and Meghan. That's where all the coverage goes. It quashes anything else that gets out about the Invictus Games. It becomes all about Harry and Meghan, and there's nothing else really of note in some ways. And so, and the media has been trained now to just focus on Harry and Meghan for these events. So they never train the media to focus on the veterans because the veterans are what is going to get most people to watch or going to grow the viewership, not Harry and Meghan, because Harry and Meghan aren't liked. And so people don't watch the Invictus Games because they don't like Harry and Meghan. And that's a big problem because you've tied your games way too close to its founder, and the founder's toxic, and so is his wife. So it kind of puts you in a bad spot. And it might be too that the corporate sponsors get a cut of whatever funds the Invictus makes beyond that. And so that again becomes problematic because the Invictus Games cannot make money. And so it relies on government to kind of offset some of the costs in addition to corporate sponsors as well. And yes, you need corporate sponsors 150%. That is wildly helpful. But you also need people to purchase merchandise, which I think at Invictus Games does have some new merchandise out. And you also need people to purchase tickets. And I saw the musical guest and I'm like, Nelly Furtado is like 2003 calling because she hasn't been like their musical guest lineup this time is pretty pathetic. And that's because they can't get good people because it's not something where you can get decent people. It's just not. So anyways, Diana says, thank you so much for the tip as well. Good morning from Australia. Very early in the morning there. What do you think about the royals now releasing documentaries? For the Queen Camilla is also preparing one. I think it's great. I think it's a great way for them to, I want to say control the messaging, but it's not in a bad way. So what I mean by that is that you have this particular a charity event like the Invictus Games, and you want it to, or not the Invictus Games, homelessness, let's say. And so you want people to get really engaged on this topic. Well, you can take them behind the scenes of what you're doing, highlight what other people are doing. So it'll be interesting to see and compare William's documentary with Harry's, although I don't know if William's necessarily the producer in the same way Harry was with his. But I think it would be very interesting to see. And if Camilla's doing one, especially when it comes to issues like domestic violence, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And it's a way to get people engaged on particular topics. And that's just, again, so important. And you can actually see what the royal does behind the scenes because, sometimes William and Catherine, I mean, we know what's going on with Catherine, but sometimes William will disappear for quite a while. It's like, what is he doing? And again, I'm a bit critical just because I see what other royals do, especially again, the Spanish example, they work a lot. And I'm like, where did he go? So if we can see more of this behind the scenes stuff and what William is doing on other levels, I think that's a really, really good thing. Like, for example, that he went to a homelessness charity and passed out Sunday dinner or sorry, Christmas dinner. Incredibly important to see him doing that. And so the more they can do those kind of things, like the better off I think things are. And so I think that's a great thing. So all right, we got Judith. Good morning from Tennessee. Robert, reminder to all, clocks go back tomorrow if tomorrow is Sunday in your part of the world. So it already went back in the UK. So, because I had to adjust what I said for time for this live stream, because I'm like, oh, it was nice too, because when I chatted with Dan, he could only do it midday for him, which would be morning for me. And when I was looking at the time and everything, it's like, oh, it's 4 hours difference instead of 5. Whoop, 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 whoop. So that helps. All right, Judith, I agree with you, Letitia. His diligence in how to help end homelessness and to spotlight the Earthshot Prize will go down for decades to come. Yes. As someone says, Prince William is doing the work. That's why Earthshot is successful, as it provides people with the opportunity to help the world. Wendy says, good morning. We have Renee says, good morning, everyone. Brittany, Miss Pippa, looking forward to the live. We got Jennifer who says, good morning, all. We have Karen who says, hello, everyone from rainy, sunny, chilly Northern California. We got Patricia. Good morning, everyone from the Emerald Coast of North Carolina. We got Joanne from Arizona. Kaza says, good morning, everyone. Still super warm in North Carolina. Saw the William documentary last night. It was very good. Yeah, I need to compare. That'll actually be an interesting comparison. Elizabeth says, good morning, everyone from crisp and sunny Manitoba. We have Laners. It says Northern California, raining here too. We got Wendy, our dog's dressed as the Cowardly Lion and Tin Man. Do the Royals trick or treat and to celebrate Halloween? We do actually have indications. So this is from, okay, I want to say it's one of the Ecclestones. So Tamara, I think, not Petra. So I think Tamara's husband, so the Ecclestone's part of like the Ecclestone Formula One racing. He reported that one year, because there's all like these big gates in the Kensington community, that Catherine was going around with the kids trick-or-treating in that neighborhood. So they do go trick-or-treating. I imagine they have a place where they go. And you have to think too, like the lie that Harry and Meghan told that their kids want to have a private life in the UK is just complete misinformation. Like Harry and Meghan are the king and queen of misinformation and like twisting things. So when it comes to royals and like the aristocrats, they are able to go trick-or-treating. And if they have a community where they can do it like among themselves, where like they can protect the kids' privacy and everything, of course they do it. We also do know that Princess Madeline's children went trick-or-treating, or at least dressed up for Halloween, as she shared a picture of them. And I thought, oh, I wonder how Adrian's doing. I mean, she's still super young. I just remember I moved from a place that was super sunny and mild temperatures to a place that was much chillier and had a very different weather pattern. And I remember that being super tough, but I was also like in like middle school age. But her kids have moved and relocated from Florida to Sweden, which is obviously, as Chris said, the sun sets at 3 p.m. in Sweden. And I imagine the sun is setting probably closer to maybe 5 or 6 in Florida. And it was a lot warmer. So I was like, whew, that was probably definitely a very different trick-or-treating experience. So very exciting for them. But yeah, we got Beth says, good morning from Reading, Pennsylvania. Kaza says, I think Charles should get more credit for turning the Prince of Wales role into a meaningful job. Previous Prince of Wales were lazy and made big mistakes. Yeah, I think it's fantastic what Charles was able to do. It's an example of what he could do with having, basically so much time to create a great role for himself. And so I think he deserves a lot of credit for it. And the sad thing is, at least some of the legacy he was going to leave to like Harry. Because I think the initial plan was for Harry to be in charge of the prince's trust. And so it's just kind of sad that Harry declined that because, he needs to, shill for the Invictus Games and shill for his wife, most importantly. So, all right, Elizabeth says, do we think Harry really wants to reconcile with his family, or is this a PR stunt? Okay, so here's the way to look at Harry, because I know people are like, oh, he's like even the more guilty party than Meghan in some people's eyes. And here's the way to look at Harry. I kind of look at Harry as the victim of you could say, not so healthy relationship and also a cult. So he will do and say things that he would not otherwise. That is my personal opinion on the matter. That is how, yes, he is fully responsible for the actions that he has made. Harry will reconcile, I think, at some point. But part of the reconciliation process will be recognizing that in part he was, I would argue, manipulated, and that he made decisions based on that manipulation that he never should have made. And he needs to apologize to his family for that. He must apologize to them because that is his fault. He fell for the lie. And as a result, the family it was just a really bad situation for everyone. So K Coffee says, I made it. Hello, RNN peeps. Hello. Asma says, Edward the Traitor King. Yeah, I did start reading that book. I need to finish it. Betty Gosnell, hello from Oklahoma. Asma says, I've been a member for a year. Yay. We have Adopt a GDX says, good morning, RNM family. Brittany and Miss Pippa. We have Lady Aviator. Good morning from Huntsville, Alabama. Looking forward to another great live. As always, enjoyed seeing you on Dan Wootten's show. Why, thank you. And he was on my show. Like, I need a little cheering here. We got Cheryl says, good morning, everyone. We have Ruth. Good morning from chilly Kalamazoo, Michigan. Diane says, good morning, RNM fam. Hi, Brittany and Miss Pippa. Excited to be here. We are so excited you are here. Elaine says, hi, everyone. Do you think Meghan Markle will go to Whistler Invictus? I think so. I don't know how that rumor got started that she wasn't invited, because I think my theory has been is that the Invictus Games wants her there because I think that's the only way they believe they'll get a decent amount of publicity is if she's there. And that's sad. And if you need her in order to get publicity, the problem is she's getting publicity for herself. It's not really translating into publicity for the Invictus Games. Again, this is the whole thing about, well, Harry and Meghan, if we can get them in front, like on the front page or whatever, that, they'll sell X product. They don't end up selling product. We've seen this time and time again. They generate noise, but it doesn't convert. So the only people making money off Harry and Meghan really right now are the news outlets like mine and others, commentary outlets. I would consider myself more kind of a commentary / news. Like those are the only groups of people making money off Harry and Meghan. Nobody else is. Harry and Meghan can't make any money off Harry and Meghan. It's really sad in some ways, like because they're unliked. So again, if they were hugely liked, anything they do would turn to gold. It doesn't. The reason it doesn't is because they are not well liked. They have a small cadre of dedicated hardcore fans, but that is it. They're not Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift could probably move a mountain of a particular product just by showing it. Meghan Markle cannot do that. She just cannot. Harry can't do it either. So Asma says, do you think Harry needs to see his mother with an adult mindset now that he has children of his own? Yes, Harry needs to stop thinking of his mother the way he would when he was 13 and start thinking of her as an adult. William, I think, saw her as an adult, flawed human being. Harry still sees her as a saint. And that is why I think William has a much healthier relationship with his mother and her legacy rather than Harry. Harry has a fantasy version of it, I think, partially fueled by the media, which is like ridiculous because number one, the media is the ones that kind of, caused her death, number one. But two, they created the Diana fantasy that just never really existed in some ways in the first place. And so the best thing to do, the healthiest thing to do is not to be attached to that memory because it's just not totally there either. Why do that says, good morning, Brittany from Manitoba, Canada. I always look forward to seeing these live. So thank you. You are welcome. Mima says, good morning from Chile, Massachusetts. There's finally some cool weather in New Hampshire. We're not quite there yet. We're not quite there. Elaine says when it comes to Meghan Markle in Canada for the Invictus, probably she'll go, but she won't go to the one in Birmingham. Not very glamorous. No, I don't think so. Terry says, good morning from Dallas. Asma says, I'm so cold. You should come to my corner of the world. It's not too bad. Casey says, good morning, Brittany and Miss and Princess Pippa from cool New Hampshire. We have Janine says, good morning from Pennsylvania. I was wondering, is George His Royal Highness? Is Prince George His Royal Highness? Yes, he has an HRH. I mean, I think technically Archie and Lilibet do as well because Harry and Meghan still technically have one. They just can't use it. So they do technically have it. It was stripped of the children of the grandchildren of the King of Sweden who are not in the main line of succession. So that's not the children who are not from Crown Princess Victoria. So in the future, it's currently 6. It'll soon be 7 in February. 7 of the king's grandchildren will not have an HRH in Sweden. So yes, and other families. So in Norway, they use His or Her Highness instead of His or Her Royal Highness. So there's different ways to kind of delineate who is more important within the family. So, but George is definitely highly important because he is the future king. So he is His Royal Highness Prince George of Wales. So Asma asks, has the live started yet? No, because I need to finish my eggs. Randy says, good morning, everyone. Gunita says, question, do you think William mentioned Harry to get attention for his project or because he is starting to forgive Harry? No, I mean, I would have to see the exact quote. I remember seeing the article about it, but my thought just is like, well, if you want to recognize someone and you want to like make sure they know there's still Rob back. Here's the thing. You have to always remember Harry is the crazy one. There is nothing wrong with family reconciliation. There is nothing wrong with trying to rebuild bridges. Yes, the relationship will not be the same. I don't think William's relationship with Harry will ever be the same as it was pre-Meghan. Harry destroyed that, and the ashes are at his feet. But it is healthy for William and healthy for Harry if they do reconcile at some point. That is a healthy relationship. That you have issues, you work through them, you come back together. That's healthy. What is not healthy is what Harry is doing. He's just demanding that everybody apologize for him for every ill he believes that they committed against him. And until then, he won't reconcile. No, it's like, I think the mature thing is for everyone to realize there were faults on all sides. Not everybody did everything exactly the way they should have done them. Do I think the vast majority of the issues resides on the head of Harry? Yes. But I think it is healthy for there to be a route back. So I don't know if he's starting to forgive Harry, but is he recognizing the work Harry has done? Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with that. So I don't think, though, William is trying to get attention either. Like, there can just be, I think, something I would always lean with. Oh, so yeah, my glasses are kind of technically broken. So I have taped them back together to try to get them to function somewhat well. Okay. Yes, I desperately need new glasses to get these fixed. So, yeah, I think they will. I don't think William is trying to get attention because he doesn't really need to. He's the Prince of Wales, so he doesn't need to do something like that. But he may, he's thinking about Harry, reflecting on their relationship. So yeah, it's a good thing. Diz fan, thank you so much for the tip. What are your thoughts on Prince William mentioning his brother for the first time? I don't consider it an olive branch. I mean, I would say not really either. Like I said with the other question, very similar. Is like, I think it's just a reflection on, well, Harry's done good work in here. I'm just going to mention him. Like, there's nothing wrong or mentioning him in relationship with, that their mother was passionate about this. And so they both had a peripheral or maybe somewhat more closely aligned, interest in this particular issue. There is nothing wrong with William mentioning his brother, nothing at all. And I don't know if I would necessarily consider an olive branch. Again, I would have to see exactly how he used it, but I think it's a good thing for Harry and William to reconcile at some point. I think it's very healthy for their relationship. So if it's considered an olive branch, I don't think it is. But if Harry considers it that way and they start to talk, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. So we got Steven. Thank you so much for the tip. Um, Bid winning companies 2025 Invictus Games Corporation, 2018 Australian International Military Games Limited, 2016 Military Adaptive Sports Inc., to 2022 Power of Freedom Foundations. So it's kind of interesting because those companies were obviously just created just for the games. They exist for no other reason. And so, yeah, there are companies that are created in order to kind of facilitate the games. And so they're all individual, but at the same time, too, they're coming from on a high. So, yeah, they form these individual coalitions, but there's kind of an overall, you could say, umbrella to everything. And so it's just fascinating. And it's when it comes to Harry, I don't know. I just find all the stuff with Harry somewhat sad when it comes to the games and stuff. It's just like one of those things where it could do really well, but honestly, I don't think it's sustainable. I don't think it's sustainable the way they've designed it to just go abroad every 2 years and have these somewhere. It's like the Olympics on crack or something. It's a terrible idea because the Olympics themselves aren't sustainable. They're not sustainable. And at least the Olympics gets a lot of eyes on them, you know. It'll be in Los Angeles in a couple of years. Otherwise, not so much. So I just don't think it's I think probably their most successful games were probably technically the ones in Florida. I think they should have kept in one spot. So lots of thoughts there. We shall see what these next games hold. Chris says hello, everyone. And then we got, Mima. I don't really think he's forgiven Harry. He just may be sick and tired of all the constant hoopla. I imagine that too. Harry equals drama. Caroline says, hello, Brittany and fellow R&M family from late at night in Perth. Hope our American friends had a lovely Halloween. We did. Kim said, good morning, everyone from Nova Scotia. We got Liz E. Good morning from seasonally cold Wisconsin. Asma says his mother took both boys to visit the homeless. Yeah. And so it was, says, why are you wearing glasses, Brittany? So my, I've just had a lot of issues like with my eyes being irritated and itchy and stuff like that. So anyways, this is just like what I gotta do. So Laner says, hearing an echo, Brittany. I haven't gotten any other comments on that. Just checking the microphone. So it might be something with your computer. So yeah, it's just one of those things. So we have Diana. Diana, thank you so much for the tip. Do you believe in divorce rumors? I was never on that train, but the fact that they aren't seen together despite Harry's tour make me think otherwise for the first time. So it's a complicated thing. So here are kind of what we know is that they're going down their separate paths professionally. Does that indicate a split in the future? Personally, I think so. Are they split now? That I do not know. But their lives are incredibly stressful. Harry has no relationship with his family. They have money woes, I think. They have a company that's supposed to, so you got to think too. So Harry's basically given up on Hollywood. He's given up. He's going to do the cosplay royal thing that is going to be his job. They've told us that in People magazine. He's just going to be a philanthropist. So how do you be a philanthropist? Well, you have to have money, somebody making buku amounts of dollars in order to be a philanthropist. And so for Harry, that's his wife, who's going to be an entrepreneur. And so part of that is going to be obviously American Riviera Orchard, but she can't get it out of trademark hell. Latest is that, and I was going to do a video on this yesterday, but I think I had left my camera. So I have actually my camera full-time plugged in. So there's a battery that actually plugs into the wall. So my camera can be constantly on. I just have to press a button. I don't have to deal with the battery. So I left it on for too long though. And sometimes when I do that, it goes, change battery. I'm like, no, you don't really need to change battery. You are like literally plugged in 24/7. So like, it's not the battery. You don't actually have to change the battery unless I take you somewhere else. So that didn't quite work. So I was like, I had to take the battery like out and allow it to kind of rest for a while because I think I had left it on too long. Anyways, all that to say, as I was going to film something yesterday because for American Riviera Orchard, Meghan is her trademark is being challenged by Harry and David, which is a very famous company because they have something called Royal Riviera pears. And so they're like, we don't want it to get confused with American Riviera Orchard. And so Megan is going to have to fight that. And I think she may have a big challenge with that. And it just goes to show these are the type of trademark issue headaches that you don't need. And think about it as well. She already filmed the show. If she can't get the trademark for the brand name, she is so incredibly screwed. She's going to have to redo the entire thing like a nincompoop because the whole purpose of the show is to sell the products. If she can't trademark the products or get the patents on the products because she was so stupid and launched the brand before she had done all this legal stuff. She is incredibly, incredibly screwed. Like so incredibly screwed. Like it's insane how dumb this is. Like how incredibly, incredibly dumb this is. So, anyways, all that to say that they are going down their separate paths, but they are, I think, banking on ARO being like this money printing machine, which I don't think it'll be. She's not all that popular, and she can't even sell products right now because she can't get out of trademark hell. So, what does this all say? That I don't think they're separated right now, but I think separation is probably in their future, most likely. But the other thing is, we have in Hollywood now recent examples of couples, and this has happened before, I think, too, or they're maybe not as public about it or what have you, is that we do have Hollywood people who have admitted to basically being separated for 6 or 7 years and just not telling anybody. Like they've been actually separated. This was Meryl Streep and her first husband, and then Will and Jada Pinkett Smith as well. They announced that they had been technically separated for many years. When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock on the face, he was technically separated from his wife. Like, think about that. It's ridiculous. But I think it's entirely possible when it comes to all this that Harry and Meghan will be going down separate paths personally as well as professionally. That is just like I feel like the professional separation is just a precursor to the personal one. Now, granted, that might not be the case, but I don't think they have anything in problem, and they make their lives needlessly difficult to the point where I just can't imagine them lasting long term. I just can't. I just can't. All right. So we got next. Cal says, "What are your thoughts about Meghan Markle's co-star from Suits posting an old picture of her on his Instagram?" Kelly from Cleveland, Ohio. So I find this kind of funny and interesting. So number one, I don't think Meghan was actually really well liked by a lot of her cast members. Why? Because they don't post a lot about her. They don't communicate with her. Like she's basically ghosted them all since inviting them to her wedding. Like inviting them to her wedding was her last hurrah, and then she was like done. Number two is that I think he's somewhat desperate for like attention from her because he was her love interest and everything. And he has a new show to sell, I think. And so he's like, oh my gosh, if we can get her here, we can get her here. This will be so good. And number three, it was a horrible picture of her. Meghan Markle in profile, I'm sorry, it is not her best look. She looks best from face forward. Her nose is terrible from profile. I'm sorry, it is. Like objectively, it's not attractive. I don't think it's a particularly attractive picture. Like, why would you post that picture? I'd be so annoyed. I'd be so annoyed. It's like, why did you post a picture that highlights my worst personal like facial feature? It's kind of funny because I've been watching because I need something mindless to watch sometimes as I'm doing other things because I'm kind of I think I have a bit of that ADD. So it's like I can't like do just silence. Like I have to do something else or have something else going. So I've been watching America's Next Top Model. And one of the things they talk to the models a lot about is understanding your body's positive traits and its flaws. So like somebody for a while, they're like, well, she always looks best or she's always posing in profile. But when you see her head on, it's just not as good a picture. And you need to, as a model, be able to do both. And it's knowing your personal features and how to highlight them. If you have a short neck, how do you elongate it? If you have maybe a like your stomach's not as toned. How do you camouflage that? Like you have to be so aware of your body. So those all to say, obviously Meghan couldn't control what somebody else posts, but I would be so stinking annoyed. It's like, why did you choose the worst picture to share? It's a terrible picture. I'm sorry, it's a terrible picture. It's a really terrible picture of her. And so I think Some of the cast, I think, are perfectly fine ignoring her, like she's ignored them. I think like Sarah Rafferty and Gabriel Mache, I think his name is, and some of the other cast members, they don't talk about her a lot, and they're like they'll be asked about her, and they're like, "Sure, oh, she'd love to come on our new podcast or whatever. That'd be great because they're doing a Suits Rewatch podcast." I don't think there's really a lot of love for Megan, honestly. Like they have to be careful. Again, think of Hollywood. What you'll notice about people is they're so complimentary to everyone publicly, and then you'll hear snide remarks in the background. So, what does that tell us? Is that people in Hollywood are more than willing to lift you up when it's beneficial to them and totally willing to talk behind your back when it's beneficial to them as well. So, it's just one of those things, but I think he's just looking for attention. All right. So we have Diz fan here says it'll be interesting to compare Harry and Meghan's documentary to that of Williams. Hope you do a video dissecting that. Love your interview with Tan. Why, thank you. Yes, it'll be interesting to see. I'm like super like I'm super stoked to see what it's like. And I think again, if William leaves it to like the more professional hands and just has like a encouragement here or there what he would like to see, I think that would be much better and much more beneficial to the documentary than I think what Harry did, which was try to control the Invictus Games documentary. And he's not a documentarian, and it shows. It was the plot line was the series was too long, it was too muddled, it got bogged down in needless details. It didn't even focus, like half the people they focused on didn't even get injured in combat. I'm like, isn't the whole point of the Invictus Games is to help soldiers who have been injured in combat? Yes, that is not entirely what they do. But one guy, his like he lost his arm in a motorcycle accident here in the States. And I'm like, well, that's incredibly tragic, but that's not the point of the games, is my understanding. Not that he can't compete, but what you are trying to pitch, because it's all about pitch and image and all these sorts of things. What they were trying to pitch is like this is a game for veterans who were injured in combat. Not that other people who haven't been injured or were injured in other ways and were a veteran, not that they can't participate, but your pitch for the games is that people injured in combat. And then you had this guy and who they focused a lot on, by the way. His issue happened in a car accident. Like they went to his home, they like dissected his like childhood a bit and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care because like what you really want to hear is the person who, experienced an IED explosion in Iraq, and all the trauma surrounding that, getting people to safety, getting yourself to like medical help, getting yourself back to the, probably to a hospital in Germany for immediate treatment, like all these sorts of things is stuff that to me, at least when it comes to pitching the Invictus Games, is much more compelling because that guy could also, and this is technically true for probably anybody Invictus, can also participate in the Paralympics. So, and anyways, so I'm looking forward to seeing it though. We have Wendy says, hi, Brittany. Lifestyle brands were big 10 to 15 years ago. Now it's an oversaturated market. Even Goop is laying off employees. Yeah, this is another interesting thing. I actually clipped a video of this girl talking about something very similar, is that other celebrity lifestyle brands have gone down and the lifestyle trend overall is sort of starting to dim. And so Megan is even slow to the market. That's the amazing thing. She's even so slow to the market. She's missing peak time already. And she's so slow. By the time she gets it out, it'll probably be just overall dead. And like, what is the lifestyle she's even trying to sell? What is it? Like downgrade or low tier royalty or something? Like, what is she trying to sell? We don't even know. That's what's so incredibly stupid about the brand as well, is that you have all this time and have had all this time for months now to tell us what the Invictus game, or sorry, I was reading a comment because I was going back to the other thing, and I was like, I saw the Invictus games. What American Rivera Orchard is. Megan has not told us even what it is. What is it supposed to be? What is it about? Why should we care? She can't tell us that. She has my information hostage, guys. She's holding a email list, probably maybe that could even have upwards of 100,000 contacts on it. She's holding it hostage because for over 8 months now, we're going on 8, 9 months of her because she apparently is too incompetent to send an email. Like, it's not going anywhere. Goodness. Allison says, good morning from Idaho. I have had issues with my contacts as well. I'm so sorry. It does kind of suck. Aram Scout says, good morning from Mexico to the RNN community. Why, thank you. Robert says, I watched Harry at the NATO thing. What a joke. I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, it's just like, and with a big giant picture of your wife and yourself on your wedding day in the background. I was like, so, and immediately, if he actually cares, because like everything becomes sometimes about the pictures behind you, and you can't say you don't know that. It's like all of a sudden, oh, the sweet picture of Harry and Meghan on their wedding day. I was like, I don't give a crap. Like, what is he doing for the Invictus Games? That's what matters. All right. Betty says, is your live light on? I did turn it on. I actually kind of like this one too, because it kind of actually strobes. And it doesn't look that way in person, but somehow that's how it reads behind the scenes, which I think is funny. Shirley says Invictus has been markled. Don't think it's been markled as much as, yeah. Millie says, good morning, everyone. I love the glasses. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. I do not like them, but that's just my issue. Kimberly B says, good morning, Ms. Pippa. Queen says, Brittany, put the light on. I did. Gretchen the First says, good morning from Massachusetts on my second large mug of coffee. Husband gone for the day, ready for RNN chat, but I may regret the caffeine high later. You might. Sometimes my mom, every once in a while, she has too much coffee and she's like, I had too much coffee. She's like, she has so much energy. T Spoon 59 says, good morning, Brittany and Ms. Pippa and everyone from Cincinnati. We got Mademoiselle Rhapsody. Good morning, all. We have Deborah says, good morning from Alabama. Gumdrop says, meow to Miss Pippa, hoping you do a video on William's documentary. Yeah, we will see. Olga says, good morning from the Pacific Northwest. We got Beckatopia. Greetings from Pennsylvania. Asma says, how can they afford 2 properties? The house in Montecito is expensive. It's insanely expensive. So it sounds like the development is under construction. So what this sort of means is that you put like sort of a down payment, but it's not like you fully purchase until the house is kind of complete. Is sort of what you do. So it's totally possible that you could decide at some point not to do it, and you may lose that deposit that you put down, but it's not like a down payment on a house yet. So it's a bit different. So what's kind of interesting is, so I'm living in a neighborhood and there are still some houses under construction, and there's the neighborhood has actually multiple builders, which I'm not totally a fan of. But anyways, so I have been, there's a certain builder I like. So I've been watching some of those houses. There's actually one particular house that I would love to get myself. I don't know if that'll happen, but like I'd love to get it myself. But anyways, there was another house there that looked cute too. And I remember when I saw some of the finishes, I thought they were cute. Because one of the things I like to do is when I'm walking my dog and there's a house under construction, I see if the door is open. And if the door is open, I just check it out real quick and walk out. Never any day like anything else, but I enjoy touring houses. Like that's a family trait. And so there was one house where it was sold, marked as sold. And then I walked by or drove by it the other day and it said for sale again. So somebody had put down a deposit as they were building. As they finished up, they decided they either purchased something else. They backed out of it for financial reasons. They couldn't come up with a down payment, some reason, and it came back up again. Same thing actually happened with another house in the neighborhood, because it was for a long time, it was sold. And then as it was finishing up, all of a sudden it came up for sale again. And which was really unfortunate, because I think the previous person who was behind the initial purchase, you could say, didn't want a fireplace. So when I walked in that place, the first thing I noticed is that every other house I've walked into by this builder in this neighborhood has a fireplace except for this one. And so I was like, ooh, what happened there? So as it turns out, the person who purchased it decided to back out of the deal. As a result, the fireplace wasn't, I don't want to say wasn't usable, but they made certain decisions. And so it was sold again. Somebody else purchased it, but yeah, 100% it was purchased, and then purchased in terms of somebody put a down payment as it was being built. And then when push came to shove at the end of the day, they couldn't fulfill the deal. So it could back out. But when it comes to the property as well, I think that's Harry's money. I think that's Harry's money from his inheritance. He wants to buy a place in Portugal so he can be closer to his family potentially. I think it's a scapegoat for him. I don't see the purchasing it, to be quite honest, because in addition to that, you'd need to put like like over $500,000 of investment into Portugal. I don't see Harry and Meghan being able to do that. They obviously got a good chunk of change from different people, not that they didn't, but the house in Montecito is incredibly expensive to maintain. Their security budget is insane, and they're not going to rake in the money that they need to from a Netflix. They're just not. They're just not. Now they could give themselves an outrageous salary from Netflix. If they did, then that is a reflection on Netflix's poor business management in that relationship, that they allowed this couple who are not making them any money to get obscene levels of cash for making crap documentaries. That's a Netflix problem. But this is an overall Hollywood bloat problem. Because again, you can't see Harry and Meghan and their role in Hollywood in a vacuum, because there are so many factors going on within Hollywood. The entire industry is shrinking actually really rapidly and radically because of their inability to produce good content. And so Harry and Meghan will be wrapped up in that. They have already lost, I would say, upwards of $100 million due to incompetence. I can't see that going any other way. ARO, it's not going to be a cash cow. It's not going to be a money printing machine. It's just not. Will it do well? Maybe. Not saying that it won't, but I think the idea that they're purchasing these two properties and that they'll keep up with everything, I think is you guys aren't making that much. Really, the amount of expenses that they have versus the amount of money they're bringing in is just, I don't see that as sustainable. But if this is Harry's inheritance money and he could purchase that because he's I want to be close to my family, or Eugenie and Jack or whatever, and be closer to the UK, it's his money. He can do with it what he wants. But I just don't think Portugal isn't that different than Montecito. Meghan doesn't want to be in Portugal. She doesn't. She wants to be in California. She still wants that California lifestyle, even though the entire in the entire entertainment industry is changing. She's still stuck in 2005 or something. All right. Tanya says, hello, Brittany and Miss Pippa from Ohio. Hello. Laura says, good morning, Brittany and the adorable little Pippa. Why, thank you. Jenny says, good morning from PDX. I think that's Phoenix. Fire Elemental says, sorry, I'm hoping that when Harry went to Africa, he was able to seriously ponder his life and maybe went for some help, including Chelsea's advice. So Chelsea doesn't live in South Africa anymore. She lives in the UK. And I don't think he got advice from her. What I do think happened, though, is that the more time he spends away from Meghan, the more he is able to reflect and kind of get out of the tentacles. And it's interesting that Meghan is allowing that, because in part Meghan as well is just, how to describe it. She's someone who's just has no, it's that she's letting him get out of the nest a little bit, shows that of her lack of interest as well. I think she herself is less interested in keeping this relationship. That's what I will say. All right, Stephen, thank you so much for the tip. 2nd February is Meghan's trademark application deadline. So yeah, we will see how that goes, but I don't see it going well. And again, if February 2nd is the trademark deadline application, then how long does it take her to get confirmed? And she's filmed this show. When is she going to air it? That becomes an increasingly big problem. And if she has products she's trying to sell connected to the show, she'll have to keep pushing the show back and back and back. And then it's at Netflix is okay, you have to put this show on. We don't care about this whole idea that Netflix is going to play a big role in ARO. No, they're not, because that is a huge liability for them. That is a huge extra headache for them. They're in the business of producing content, and then they license their content for other people to make products for. So they can help her license it out, I'm sure, but they're no, we're not in charge of manufacturing. That's not what they do. That is not what they do. They create content, which is totally different. So I personally think that Netflix would help her license it, but they're we can't help this. And it's they're thinking to themselves, okay, we're paying you potentially, And you're sitting on a finished product, by the way, because I can't imagine by the end of this year they have not finished editing Megan's material, because it only took her what, a month or two, maybe at the most, to film, and she still hasn't put it out there yet. So what? And so it just, thinking about like what all this means for Megan, it's just like, it's just really bad, because then she has to wait potentially months more to hear about the next step in the trademark. So it's like she is screwed. She's 100% screwed. This is why you get all your legal ducks in a row for a company like this before launching, before telling everybody you're going to do a show about it, because I would not be surprised if, because of all the lack of planning, all the haphazard way things have been done, is that Netflix forces her to release the show before she has secured really the products to sell. I would not be surprised. Trina co-star says, "Thank you so much for the tip. Bone money for Miss Pitbull. Oh, she really appreciates it." Gossip says she'll look for another rich man as she has expensive taste. She does. She does. And now she has to be the sole breadwinner too. Now, granted, Harry can make some money from his public speaking stuff, but if it's charity, it's going to look increasingly bad for both of them. If Harry went from doing this X charity event for free to saying, give me six figures, that's not going to play well long term. It's just not. It's just not. And so he can do that maybe and be like a speaker for an event, like maybe a couple of times a year, kind of. But he cannot do that long term. He just can't. He just can't. And so she needs another cash cow. And Harry was not it. I don't even know why she thought he was. Like, seriously. It showed again a lack of research on her part. She should have parlayed their relationship into like either more of an acting career or like found a richer guy, because royalty is not known for being flush with cash. They're just not. And he's a bit of a dunderhead. And she knows that better than anyone. That's why he was the easy mark, right? To be quite honest. And so she got the man. And it's like, yay, 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 I got the title, but oopsie doopsie. Like, I've convinced him to go to California. And as it turns out, the man is only good at one thing, and that's being a semi-decent royal. And that's not really going to make us any money. So what do we do? Like, now it falls on me. And she doesn't want to work. She's not a hard worker. She's just not. That's why Spotify like let them go, essentially, is that they're both hard workers. They both had bad ideas and their content was terrible. Netflix knows the same thing. So yeah. All right, Lizzie says, Megan tends to be living 15, 30 years behind what is happening now. Women's issue and how Hollyweird has changed. Yeah, I mean, that's 100% true. Thank you so much for being a member. And I don't know why it highlights certain members' comments and not others, because I know sometimes people wonder. I don't know why. It's just the system. But anyways, when it comes to Megan, yeah, she's living so far in the past, especially when it comes to feminist issues. Like, I would say the true feminist issue has more to do with the transgender issue right now, and men who have transitioned being in women's sports, than the issues Meghan Markle is griping about. Like equal pay for equal work. Like, they pretty much do. They pretty much do. Sometimes women get paid more. Sometimes women get paid actually, like, especially when it comes to soccer. Like, the amount of people who watch the Women's World Cup compared to the men's is like, there's an astronomical difference. So yeah, the men get paid more. They watch it more. When it comes to women's gymnastics, it's kind of one of the few sporting events where that is completely reversed. The women get paid more and have more potential money making opportunities than the men do. And so that is one of those things. And so it's like, like the stuff she's griping about, I'm like, really? Really? Like, like you said, she's living 30. I would say, argue when it comes to some of the feminist issues, it's like she's talking like Gloria Steinem did in the 60s. And I'm like, have we not like gotten better? Like, you just get the sense, no. And when it comes to how Hollyweird has changed, yeah, it's like since the pandemic when Harry and Meghan signed, and it's like some of this is insider baseball, and I love talking about Hollywood stuff. I do find it really interesting, but because I used to love going to the movies. Like, that was like our family thing for a while. Like, we would go to the movies every single weekend. Either Friday or Saturday, we would go to the movies. That was part of our weekly, essentially, ritual, you could say. Like, I love movies. I love going to the movies. I have not been to a movie theater this year. The only thing I'm really bummed I missed was the 25th anniversary of The Mummy in theaters. I would love to have gone and seen The Mummy in theaters. Love that movie. The one with Brendan Fraser. Love it. It's awesome. If you haven't seen that, fantastic movie. Anyways, and there are other movies that I would go and rewatch in theaters. I would go and watch an old movie rather than watching a new one. The new ones look terrible. The only new movie I was excited to see for the last probably 5 years was Oppenheimer. That was more because I'm a historian and I know a lot about that kind of situation more than anything else. And so Megan is totally and completely behind the times. And they missed that critical Hollywood window where it was flush with cash and they were willing to greenlight anything. Hollywood did end up doing that, greenlighting everything, and it all sucked pretty much. And so because of that, now Hollywood is like, okay, we got a reverse course. And like the and especially when it comes to the messaging and stuff, it's like too hardcore political. I think that the challenging thing is it's much like even Christian movies. Sometimes when you make them, I would argue, and this is not like I just critique because I'm a Christian myself, but sometimes when you make them too Christian, they don't totally work because you're not really telling a story, you're telling a message where you need to actually create a good story that conveys a strong message. Like think of the Lord of the Rings. It has a message in there, but it's wrapped up in a very well done story, an incredibly compelling story that has sort of those aspects of classical storytelling. Hollywood cannot tell a story to save its life anymore. TV shows are bad, movies are bad, people are tuning out. And I was talking to a friend actually last night, and she's like, she watches K dramas now and Chinese dramas, Korean and Chinese dramas that are on Netflix. Why? Because they're better. And so Harry and Meghan were in that time period where Hollywood was greenlighting anything. They dragged their feet, and now Hollywood is not greenlighting anything. The industry itself is shrinking radically. This also has to do with the strikes that they had as well. And Hollywood is turning people off with all their political messaging. So you have all these compounding issues in this industry that's dying. And that's what Harry and Meghan attached themselves to. And then they did a poor job of it. Do you know why some people are successful, like Chris Nolan, who did Oppenheimer and other movies? I guess he's like his next one's gonna be like a vampire movie or something. Anyways, you know why people like him are successful is because they're concentrating on the story. Harry and Meghan have yet to, I think, do a good story at all. And so it's just going to be more and more problems, I think. So we got Lady Aviator member as well for 11 months. Almost a year says, I feel Diana and Meghan Markle will get along while it's both hated Kensington Palace, Buckingham Palace, and tried to undermine it. One difference is Diana's love for her charity work was genuine. It was, but I also think Diana did, though, have a respect for the institution because you have to remember, Diana didn't really want to undermine the monarchy. She wanted to undermine the courtiers and she wanted to have a bit of her freedom. But if she fully wanted to undermine the system, she undermines her son's future. She wouldn't do that. She's not that stupid. Meghan Markle is kind of that stupid. Like she seems to actively want to undermine the entire system when the entire system is what gave her her entire relevance. None of her Hollywood friends would be speaking to her without that stupid title. That is the only reason people have paid any attention to her is that title. No other reason. So she desperately, desperately needs that title. She does. She does. And I don't think, though, Diana and Meghan would get along at all. I think they would have hated each other. I think they would have hated each other because, again, they have their most, I think, toxic traits in common. Because Diana could be very cold. She could be kind of vindictive. And Meghan's like that too. And so I think they would be like oil and water. I think it would be a volatile combination. I don't think they would like each other in the slightest. Don't think they would have liked each other in the slightest. I think Diana would have liked Catherine a lot. I mean, I think Diana is probably a stronger personality than Catherine is. Nothing wrong with that. So it might have been a bit of a challenging dynamic in some ways because I think Catherine is just not as you could say as forceful as Diana is. But when it comes to their relationship, I think there would have been a lot of problems. Wendy, thank you so much for the tip this morning. What do you think of Netflix wanting to bid on broadcasting the carols at Christmas? Wouldn't their affiliation with Meghan Markle make that a problem? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that would be fantastic if Netflix wanted to bid. At this point, it's like, yes, it may sort of undermine the Harry and Meghan stuff, but the Harry and Meghan stuff is not making them any money. So when you think about it, it has been over a year since Harry and Meghan released one thing on Netflix. So they released their eponymous documentary, Harry and Meghan, in December 2022. They released Live to Lead on January 31st, 2022, which everybody knew would flop. It looked dismally boring as all heck. I did not even watch that thing because it looked like a snooze fest. And it was also all old information. Like, I don't even know at that point why they even tried to release it because it was like entirely old. Like, the interviews had been done years and years ago by an entirely different production team. And there's a reason it never really made it to market. And that's probably because it wasn't very good. So nobody watched it. I didn't even watch it. Heart of Invictus came out in 8 months later in August. And now we have, let's say, 15 months until their next release, which will be the Polo, which will come out when I'm in Europe, so that'll be interesting. I don't see that doing well. I just don't. It's not even the time of year to be, like, involved in Polo. That would make more sense for something like that to come out in the spring. I think they're desperate for anything they can sell, and so, like, if I was Netflix, I'd just be like, "Just give me new content." Like, I'll take new content from anything. Like, if Catherine's stuff gives us more watch hours, we'll take it. And granted, I don't think it'll get a ton. I don't think even in the UK it, like, does, like, fantastically well, but would people in the States watch it? Oh, yeah, they would. They 100% would. So, I don't see that. Maybe it might be Disney Plus, though, given that relationship. Diana said, "Thank you so much for the tip." Last question from me today, because it is obviously very late in Australia. Do you think Meghan regrets some of her decisions with the RF, given that she tries to act like a royal now? So, this is an interesting question, and one that a normal person would have regrets, but Meghan Markle cannot see herself as making a mistake. Like, I truly believe she does not believe she errs. Like, she is fully, maybe, I hope in her heart of hearts that she recognizes her errors, but that would require an element of self-reflection. I don't think Meghan Markle possesses that. And the problem is you can't, let's say succeed, but you can't grow unless you admit your faults. And Meghan Markle cannot admit her faults. To Megan has no faults. Megan has no faults. And that is really, really bad for her because she needs to admit that she has made mistakes. She has 100% made mistakes. And those mistakes have cost her a lot. They have cost her oh so much. And so because of that, like, she's screwed. She's kind of screwed. And so she shouldn't be able to admit those mistakes, but I just don't think she is capable of doing that, to be quite honest. Alice Rants On, thank you for being a member. Hi, Brittany. Love your videos. They are always so much fun. Why, thank you. We have our Zero as well, who became a YouTube member. Why, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Welcome to our members family. Hells Bells, it's me. It says, I love history books. Me too. Me too. Luis says, hi, Brittany. Are you worried about the upcoming election you are facing soon and what it'll mean for the American public? I mean, yes and no. I feel like depending on how you say that, people could interpret different political leanings. And my goal always here is, like, you could probably guess where I lie politically, but mm, that's not the point of this channel. So it's not really a point to go there. I always err, though, because of this platform and other things, I always land on free speech is incredibly important. It's so incredibly important to have free speech and to be able to share things within reason. Obviously, there should be limits, like, you know, and stuff like that. But it's like, I hate the whole notion of, oh, we need to protect against misinformation. I mean, our media complex here in the States is so dismally, has such a dismally bad reputation. It's quite incredible. And, I worry about where things are going. I'm not particularly happy with the direction of the country, how much things are costing and stuff. So, like, I would like a change in regards to that. You go to the grocery store, you spend so much more than you used to. Like, I used to be able to go to the grocery store and, like, a big purchase would be like $100, maybe a little over. And now it gets close to like $200. And I'm like, what happened? And it's like one of those things that I know it's not the grocery store's fault. They can't help inflation, but it's like we need some adjustments here somewhere. And I think the government is over bloated 150%. It's a bureaucratic machine. And I don't think bureaucracy, this doesn't tend to bode well. So I always worry about, And I know people would interpret this in a different way, like totalitarianism and stuff like that. And in the what always concerns me is the desire by some people to control all forms of media and information. What the great thing about X is, which is not my favorite thing, is that it's an avenue to share different perspectives. And I might not agree with all of them, and Community Notes is there to help address some of those issues, but I think it's good to have those avenues. So for example, I always use the example, if you want to think the earth is flat, I mean, I can think you're an idiot, but you should be able to believe that if you want to. Again, I can think you're an absolute moron, but you should have the right to believe that. There are people who don't believe that people should have the right to do that or have a different perspective. I think different perspectives are a good thing, but I think sometimes too it goes too far. So I do worry about that somewhat. Hopefully it's and what it's annoying too is that we won't know some states for like days later. And it's like, we're living in the 21st century, and I feel like it takes us longer now to determine the victor of the US election than it did in like the 1800s. So we got a problem there. It comes from mail-in ballots. Now, some mail-in ballots, like you can mail it in day of, and so they have to wait to make sure all the ballots come in before it's like, okay, we need to fix that because that's just not workable. But I have voted. I was able to vote early, so I did you could do that. So we have Patagotia, who says, "Do you really think Harry and Meghan are separated, or is it a trick? I don't see Harry having the guts to do it. I think he'll get there at some point, but not sure exactly when. And they're definitely separating professionally. And again, usually professional usually results in personal at some point. It just kind of does, especially for two people who are like salt and pepper. They do everything together." Neely says, "Good morning. Good Saturday morning, live. Brittany, hi, Miss Pippa, and everyone. Hello." Gretchen the first says, "Bought James's book. It's on my never ending to read pile." Yep. That's my thought too. Kazas Swan says, "Highly recommend James Middleton's book. It's great insight into how depression feels for the sufferer." Why, thank you. Anna says, "Good morning, Ms. Pippa and Brittany from New Hampton, Massachusetts." Thank you. Miss K says, "Brittany, thoughts on changing media narrative regarding Harry and Meghan? I feel like deep pockets are paying a powerful PR firm to extradite Harry. Started noticing that around their Colombia trip. There definitely seems to be a shift in the media. Now, I will say that some of this shift could come initially from the fact that people were so scared to say anything negative because they think they would be deemed as racist. And so they kept their mouth shut because they're like, "Oh, this will get interpreted badly. I'm called terrible names." And I was like, I'm really just criticizing her, guys. It has really nothing to do with the color of her skin and everything to do with the content of her character. But they can't get that out of their minds because she has put that idea in people's heads. And so some people, like, they cannot fathom that you like that there's any other reason why she's so disliked. They can't really fathom it. So, interesting thing is that when it comes to the shifting narratives, I think personally it's a lack of PR firm. I think they don't have maybe WME behind them or something else. But I also just think it's people are feeling more comfortable now with the abysmal mistakes that they have made sharing their perspective because it's like you can't ignore it anymore. You almost look bad not saying it. You almost look bad not saying it because it's like everybody notices it. Everybody notices how bad things are. It's like you almost, by ignoring it, you almost look worse. So, for example, when it comes to the US election, after the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, you notice an immediate shift in the narrative of the media. Because the media before were saying Joe Biden's great, he's fine, he's sharp and everything, and then once the debate happened and his cognitive decline, I mean, it was obvious. Like you couldn't really avoid it. He looked terrible in that debate. All of a sudden, the media were going all over about how they had seen all these signs and had never said it before. And I'm like, so you guys noticed this like 3 or 4 years ago and you didn't say anything? And now all of a sudden you're trying to cover your butt by going, "Oh yeah, we've seen X, Y, and Z." Like you noticed an immediate shift in the media narrative. And then it came to Kamala Harris and then you saw another shift. And so it's one of those things where I think sometimes people all of a sudden feel comfortable sharing something they didn't share before just because they're like, okay, it's like writing on the wall. Like you cannot ignore it. So we have to address, like we damage our media reputation by actually not going down that path. And so, it's you've kind of seen it a bit in the US election that sometimes the media are pushing because media, you can't deny it, lean more left, and so they share more left narratives, and they have their particular candidate they prefer. They just do. And you can see on the right, it's the flip side as well. But when it comes to, I feel like some aspects of the media, they're more willing now to identify flaws than they were before because it's like, well, if we don't identify flaws and somebody loses, we look like fools for saying that they were perfect. Like that's kind of how the media beast works. So, anyways, but yeah, I think there is some potential possibility that there are people on Harry's side who are like, and this could even be part of why Josh Kelly left, or Kettler left, which should be super interesting. And this is what happens is that part of Josh Kettler leaving was to help Prince Harry lay the groundwork for his own departure. That Harry is paying Josh on the side somehow, and Josh is helping like slowly weave within the media a negative Meghan narrative to help extricate Harry. That would be really interesting, I think, because Harry has come out of all these reports about Meghan's bullying behavior pretty well. Pretty well. He's come out of it. They all like him. What we get all the time is that people like him, they hate her. So she is the issue. That is undeniable that she is the issue. That he overall is pretty genial. People like him. They hate her though. They really do. So we have I care 44. Thank you so much for the tip. NATO Mark Ritt denied Harry speaking at any meeting in 2023, 2024. That's very interesting. Denies, I guess. Harry speaking at any meeting in 2024. Yeah. So it's like Harry, I mean, it was probably just like a break. It's like, oh, listen to this guy if you want to. If you have to go somewhere else, then use the restroom, you need a potty break, you need a snack, you need coffee or something, like just listen to this guy. Yeah, she would have not he's just such a joke. Like it just even be hard for me to take him seriously just based on how he's behaved. How he behaves. Like he'll try to act like a statesman and then he'll make a fool of himself on Jimmy Fallon, cursing and everything for just no particular reason. Again, it's about having a good PR strategy. They don't have a good PR strategy. So Lisa says Diana would have hated Meghan. She didn't suffer fools gladly. Agree. She would have hated Meghan. She would have hated Meghan. Chatty Kathy says, good morning, Brittany and everyone. I made it to live with my lovely cuppa. Yeah, I'm looking forward to going to the UK, although I guess I'm a bit bummed now that I think about it because I won a lot of winners, but I'm not ending in the UK. I'm beginning in the UK, so I'm going to have to lug the winners around for a while. So if you joined me on the Germany Austria trip, you'll remember I had the big pink bag. So I will have the big pink bag again because I will also have my rolling camera bag and I'll have another camera bag. So we'll have lots of camera bags. So like the port, like the trauma trip people will go, why you have this gigantic bag, Miss Brittany? And I'm like, I was traveling and trying to take pictures of people and stuff. And you need the camera bag. I need to figure out how to make my camera bag less messy because one of the things that happens is when I go through security in different airports, and I will try to take trains when I can because trains are easier because there's less requirement for going through security. And the reason I say that is not because I don't mind going through security, but every airport is different. And so sometimes they make me take out all my camera equipment. Guys, I have massive lenses, very expensive cameras. And so like to take all that stuff out and have it go through security again, heaven forbid I lose something. Like if I lose something, it's like thousands of dollars I've lost. And so it's like something where if I can avoid that particular scenario, I do. The problem with trains is that it does take longer in some instances. I will probably take the Eurostar again if I go to, but depends on if I go to Sweden, I'll have to take a plane, and I would do like British Airways or something. So I'll do, or SAS or whatever that they have there in Sweden. I will do, although I'll probably take KLM, maybe. Never mind. Because I want to get points. Anyways, so I will take. Oh, that's okay. Anyway, sorry. I'm all of a sudden thinking of logistics and I don't need to be. But yeah. So Beverly says, and Griftus can't make money when it's going to the drifters. All that money should be going to the veterans. I don't think it's really all that much is going to Harry and Meghan. I really don't. But I think the problem is that there's no money to be made there. No, this is not going to be Olympics level money. And even the Olympics is struggling to make as much money as it did before. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna make that much money. Gretchen the First said Diana had her issues, but she's always very clear Harry needed to help his brother, and Diana never bashed the royals, and she was always and she always had way more cause to than Megan ever has. Yes, I would agree with that. Adopt GDX says, I think it's interesting how the Prince of Wales initiative has been picked up by Disney, which means that we'll have more worldwide exposure. Yes, Disney also needs products. Alice Ranson says, if I'm honest, I don't think Diana would have adored Princess Catherine. I think she was a very possessive woman, and no woman would have been good enough, but she'd like Kate more than Megan. I would kind of agree with that. I don't think Diana would have been the best mother-in-law, to be quite honest. But it came from, I think, somewhat in some ways, especially when it comes to William, she definitely had a somewhat, and I don't mean to for people to take this badly, but there's kind of a dynamic that kind of developed within like situations like divorce or something where you treat your child more like your spouse and your than your child. And Diana and William had a bit more of that relationship, not in like a bad way, but she shared probably way too much with William when he was too young about what was going on in her life and situations he really should not have been, you could say, part of. So, anyways, Kate Coffee says, I like your glasses. Why, thank you. Tammy is saying hello from Niagara Falls. We have Susan from San Diego. Mademoiselle Rapacity, it's been a busy week. Loved your show with Dan. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. It was very, very fun. So fun. Flower Meerkat says you have lovely eyes, but I like your glasses. Look, why, thank you. I hate my glasses. So you guys are so sweet to say because I hate my glasses. Liz M says, good morning, Brittany and everyone. It's incredible how the Prince of Wales looks like his mother. He accomplished having a good family. Yes, I think Diana would have been thrilled to see to see William being so successful in an area she wasn't in terms of raising his kids. I think she would be very happy about that. Chatty Cathy says, I'm a retired respiratory therapist. I can hear the allergies in your voice. Your glasses look cute on you. Why, thank you. Yeah, I have had to mute so I can sniffle. So it's been bad. Pia says, good morning, Brittany. Hey, Pia. And Super Pippa. Why, thank you. Yes, she's a happy girl. She's a happy girl. Although she hated the costumes I put on her. Like anytime I put a hat on her, oh my gosh, guys, she would think I am torturing that poor dog. I'm not. She just looks super cute. And I actually got her at one place because, they kind of had started to put the Halloween stuff on sale before Halloween. And for Pippa, like we were at like PetSmart or something or Petco, and they had a police uniform outfit. And I had to put that on her, guys, because I call her the captain of the puppy patrol. And so I was like, she needs an actual uniform so she can be officially the captain of the puppy patrol. So I had ranks for all of our dogs. So my dog is the captain. My sister's dog is a lieutenant. My parents used to have 3 dogs. Our patriarch, Mr. Maverick, he was a commissioner because he was kind of retired from the duties, but you could get him. He could wrangle all the dogs. He's definitely the patriarch. We had the rookie, it was my parents' kind of more puppy dog, and then we had another dog, and I don't know what rank she was because it's like I debated, like, would she be an office assistant? She's kind of dingy, so she could be the cop that shoots herself. Like, she's the sweetest thing in the whole world, but she's not. Sometimes she's always like followed Maverick. Now that Maverick's gone, she kind of follows the other dogs, so she's like not really like a leader dog. And so she would be very different than what we would have for, yeah. It's just kind of funny. She definitely wouldn't have taken over the commissioner role. Let's just say that. Liz E, thank you so much for the tip. Diana would have had issues with William spending so much time with the Middletons instead of coming to see her during breaks and stuff. Yes, I would agree with that. Although I will say, well, it's kind of hard to say because Diana being around would change things drastically, but I also foresee Diana being so proud of William having obviously a more stable home life than she did or she was able to give him. But at the same time, if he decided he enjoyed the stability the Middletons offered more than some of her volatility, and he spent more time with them, yes, she would have despised that. She would have hated that to high heaven for such. But yeah, I think they all have a pretty good dynamic, I would say. All right, let's keep going here. Mercury says, why would William ask for cash? They live off the taxpayers to the tune of millions. How do you know the game is a money pit? That's the RF. What a joke this podcast says. You know nothing. So actually, Mercury Angel, when it comes to the Invictus games, we kind of know it's a money pit because it hasn't really made any money. If you need $15 million or 30 million from the government of Canada in order to put on your games, that's a big problem because the Invictus games, because of how it's designed, should be able to be self-sustaining. And so if it can't be self-sustaining, that means the money's going somewhere or it's just a money pit, is that it costs so much that you would have to charge $500 a ticket to maybe recoup the cost, and nobody's going to pay that. And so you have to keep the cost low in order to kind of keep the games going because people aren't going to pay that much to see Nelly Furtado. They're just not. And because of that, you have to keep the cost low, but it doesn't offset the cost of the games themselves, which are massively expensive to put on. You have to do transportation, maybe some places for the competitors to stay and all these things, and they can't sustain that. And so we know they're not sustainable and they're money pit because they're asking for money. William gets money from the Duchy of Cornwall, and that is used to fund his lifestyle. And yes, sort of, it's, you could argue because it's more of sort of a landlord situation, it's kind of wrapped up in taxes because people who live on the land owned by the Duchy of Cornwall pay some taxes to the government and to the Duchy of Cornwall to support Prince William. It has been that way for centuries. The Duchy of Cornwall supports whoever the Prince of Wales is. It's actually the initial title designate to the heir is to have the Duchy to be the Duke of Cornwall. And so the monarch then has control of the Duchy of Lancaster. But when it comes to Cornwall, that is not liquid money that you can do whatever you want with over a certain amount. With when it comes to properties and those sorts of things, you have to actually get government approval. When it comes to the sovereign grant, that is utilized to facilitate state functions. So the monarchy serves as head of state, or the monarch does. And so the monarchy broadly also serves as arms of the head of state, which in this case is King Charles. So like when it comes to the upcoming state visit of Qatar, they need funds because they wouldn't be able to put it on themselves. And it is a government function, and the government determines usually who is invited to these events. And so they put on this big show because it is an effort in diplomacy, because this is an opportunity for the members of the Qatari government and the members of the UK government to meet and discuss trade issues, economic issues, all these sorts of things. And so this idea that they just ask for cash and live off the taxpayers is wrong, because they actually serve an important function within the overall government of the United Kingdom. Whereas the Invictus Games is wonderful in a theory, but I don't think it's actually functional in terms of actually keeping up itself. So anyways, that's an explanation in case you needed it. All right, so we have Sir Leon Beef says, good morning here from the little city of Emeryville. Just came just across the bay from San Francisco. It's 60s here, just starting to feel the crisp autumn air. Glad to finally be on a live podcast. Yes, welcome. I don't think I have seen you before, so congrats. GL Hunter says, good morning, RNN. I have seen the Invictus. I've only seen for Invictus promoting entertainment, no athletes on the promo signs. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because it's just one of those things. I just don't think the Invictus Games can attract big names anymore. Like, it really couldn't in the beginning anyways, but now it's gotten, I feel like, even worse. Like, Nelly Furtado is the only person I even recognize. But again, I'm not super into watching the latest music stuff because I don't really... I'm a bit nerdy. So I like, my favorite is the Piano Guys. Like the Piano Guys. They're great. I went to a concert of theirs. It was so nice because it was like, oh my gosh, this is music, not noise. I feel like sometimes concerts devolve into noise, not music. Just my thought. Missy Lulu says, good morning, lovelies. Last night I watched Prince William Weekend in Homelessness docuseries on Disney Plus. Greater depth. It allowed for a greater depth of respect for His Royal Highness Prince William, and his team have created a good roadmap. That is awesome. Gretchen says, I think Prince William needs to be careful to find a balance between big causes and traditions. I think we should give him a little bit more time to figure out the balance, especially after this year. Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, there's a balance that can be struck, and it's a balance that needs to exist. And if you're somebody who's like, well, because of my status and stuff, I need so much security to go to all these small events that it's not really, let's say, as good as it should be. I think there is an opportunity there to have, again, a greater working fold, to have some of the other worlds do those small engagements. Because there was a report that came out is that those small engagements overall, yes, they don't get a lot of media attention, but they do actually have a greater impact long term. So, World Gone Mad says, good morning, all. It is surprisingly sunny here in NYC. Love it. Right after this live, off to vote. I am stressed. Well, good luck. Yes, exercise your civic duty. It is a good thing to do. Aram Scout says they can concentrate on in their passions, but patronages are needed. Yes, I think, again, balance is good here. Pia says, don't forget to hit that like button. Let's support Brittany. Why, thank you. Why, thank you. Soria says, good morning from Portugal. I hope the Sussexes didn't buy a house here. I don't want to pay for these idiots. Nobody wants to. Nobody wants to. Chris Overby says, disagree, Brittany. Big housing crisis is in the UK. Lots of young people in Europe love Urshot. Yes, they do. They do. Not saying that they don't, but again, there's, I think, some sort of balance that can be met. Sandra says, good afternoon from the Netherlands. Crisp autumn and no complaints for once. My good boy Hannibal, Yorkshire mix, seems to love Halloween picture of Miss Pippa. Aw. Why, thank you. Yes, it was so cute. And I carved that pumpkin and it came down so good. I was very proud. JB says Princess Anne won't be around forever to do her 600 smaller engagements. Yes, they need a replacement for Anne. They need a replacement for the Gloucesters, the Kents. They need those replacements. Stephanie Barrett says, correction, Brittany, there's a total of 15 realms around the world, so why shouldn't William do the things to help people worldwide, especially as his father is head of state of 56 commonwealths? Yes, not saying that he shouldn't, but like all of the rest of those 15 realms will go away if the main one does too. So you have to focus a lot of your effort around the main one, which is the UK, and then you can do the larger things. Again, not saying that you can't do the larger things, but if it comes to a point where all his focus is just on Earthshot and the Homewards initiatives, they may have a problem at some point. That's just a reality. That's just reality. Again, you watch the other worlds and how they do things. It's you have to have that really good balance. You do. So Maxima serves, if you don't know, as a UN ambassador for like international development, like small financial something. And so they actually have their own website for her, their own Twitter for her in that role. And it's like an international outreach. So she does a couple of foreign trips a year to support that initiative. But she also goes and does little tour events throughout the Netherlands. Like she'll spend a day in one city and go and do a bunch of different engagements. And so you have to have that balance. You can't put all your focus on these broader projects and forget the smaller in-country things as well. Again, you have to hit that balance. You really have to hit that balance, because I think those smaller engagements might seem rather pointless, but I think those are actually your better ones sometimes in the end of the day. Gretchen says, I like some ways Prince William's plan for homelessness is a lot like Michael J. Fox saying he wanted to cure Parkinson's disease. Hasn't quite reached the goal, but so much good has been done. Yes, you can. There is so much work that can be done, but again, it's something like that. Chris says Denmark is a 5.5 million population. That is, yes, you are totally right. I couldn't remember what the populations was, but I knew Sweden was around 11. But yeah, 5 million for Denmark makes sense because it is a very small country. So very different. The doc showed how team is trying to prevent homelessness, which is a handful of great partners, teams, and people that have experience being homeless, spoke to reasons why and how to prevent. Yes, I think prevention is a good way to go. But again, it's just like one of those things where it comes to poverty or something, it'll always exist. It just always will. It's just one of those sad things that you just can't quite get away from. Gunita says Canada doesn't have 15 million to waste on Invictus. Their healthcare is falling apart. I cannot believe they're wasting taxpayers' money like that. Yeah, it's a waste. Because the idea too with the Invictus is that if you put on Invictus, the millions that it'll generate from people coming in to watch will offset the costs to the government. Like the government and the hospitality industry and so many things will make a bunch of money on Invictus. And that'll help be infused back into the economy. I just don't think that's the case. Melly says, I enjoy the swimming as well. Yes. Ocean Gal says, I agree with you, Gretchen. All right. Bathing cats on a cloudy day says almost 49 million in Spain. Why, thank you. I actually had, so this is a little tooting my own horn. When I was in high school, we did this trip Well, it was an international trip, and we were going to England, France, Italy, and Greece. And like one of the questions was, what is the population of, I want to say it was Italy. And I knew that the population, because I'd just taken a geography class not too long ago, I knew the population of Germany was 80 million at the time. I'm sure it's higher now, but at the time it was 80 million. And so I was thinking, well, Italy is smaller and it's not quite as populated. So I was like, I think my guess was 60 million. And I was like a million off. So they were very impressed because somebody guessed like 13 million. I was like, well, I know Germany is 80. And I knew at the time it was the most populous country in Europe. And so I was like, okay, you got Spain, you got Italy, you got UK. I think UK is more populated, but I was like, I guess 60. And I was like, right on the dot. So they were very impressed. But I'm also an uber nerd. Surprisingly delicious, says, but Harry has no business at NATO, nor the essential shipping industrial complex trying to change our freedom of speech in America. It's called politics, and I have a big concern that what he's really doing. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. But I think NATO mostly was like, yeah, we'll just be nice. World gone mad, says Brittany. I was going through the Vogue Arabia issue online, the controversial one with the Algerian boxer. They have an article about the huge surprise of their Christmas cover. Says it's a real who. It might be, that is very interesting to note. It might be like Princess Rajwa of Jordan. That could definitely be a possibility. Or Princess Iman. Or I can't remember the Crown Prince's other sister's name. I can't remember her name. So that could be the royal, or maybe Beatrice or Eugenie. Beatrice has been spending a lot of there's like an event or something every year in the Middle East, and Beatrice has been attending. So, but I would guess it would be Princess Rajwa. She hasn't really done, I feel like, a full profile. She had her baby this year, so that would be my guess. Cyber Maven Tech Media says, I love the glasses. Why, thank you. And I was just like checking this out. So I decided to put actually my 2 bigger diamond earrings in last night. So I have my 2 carat studs right here for Anna Lucia. And this is a kind of a flower cluster diamond thing that looks more like a stud. So I was just like admiring them. And then they're like, oh, they look so pretty. Because I was like, I just want to do something different. Rediscover locations with Sharona says, hi, Brittany. Loved your video with Dan Sharona from the UK. Why, thank you. Seba says Harry has no abilities other than being a prince. He has no way to earn an income. You're right. Unless they're paying him to do that. Unless they're paying them to do that, which is a huge problem. Kathy says, I believe the bucks are for making homes, as Prince William said, also doing humanitarian. Where you are at, so I can tell you about what humanity is. Pitiful people, your frame of mind live. It's not pitiful. It's just kind of reality. Like, as a historian, I've read many things, and the human condition remains the same. So our technology might change, but humans don't. Humans don't. We still have the same problems we did hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. We have the same exact problems. And so the reason is I kind of take a long Christian perspective of the world, which basically means it's a fallen world. So there is sin there. And as a result, because of that sin exists, there will be no perfect humanity. And so because of that, there will always be addiction. There will always be murder. There will always be different war problems within the world, because the world is not, we cannot save ourselves. Because sometimes I think there's a perspective of we can save ourselves, we can fix ourselves. It just doesn't. Yes, people get out of addiction, but the overall issue of, let's say, poverty will always exist. You do absolutely all you can to alleviate it, but it will still be there. You just can't save everyone. And that's not because, and some people just don't want to be saved either. That's the truth too. Sometimes people are like, I just want to be addicted and I don't care if it kills me. I just need this drug. What can you do? Like, you can do all you can. And I think that is actually a healthier perspective to have in some ways, because you recognize that there are things you can do, but there's also recognizing things that you cannot fix. And I think there's a healthy viewpoint there, because if you are so thinking that you can fix the unfixable, you will drive yourself mad because it never goes away. And so it's like, but I'm trying so hard, I'm doing all these things, why can't I fix this? Because it can't be fixed. You can't fix humanity. You just can't. And I think that is a very healthy perspective to have, because it allows you to sort of let some things go in terms of you're not so focused on, because I think sometimes, especially when it comes to the the climate change issue and stuff like that, like there you see people, they get so consumed by it, they're so anxious because, like, oh my gosh, we have to, like, the planet is going to melt and all these sorts of things. I take a different perspective. I think the earth is much stronger than we think it is. I think humanity can always innovate and evolve, and we will find a solution to our problems at some point. And if not, we may have to evolve to and utilize different situations in order to, let's say, keep flooding away, or those sorts of things, like, seawalls and those type of situations. But, it's like I'm not so consumed with fixing it, because I know in some ways some things cannot be fixed. And I think that is so I put some of those concerns that I can't deal with, I give them to God. And that's the best way, I think, to go about some things, to be quite honest. Janet says it seems eventually many of the smaller patronage will no longer have a royal patron as the older generation of royals age out. The day of having hundreds of patronages might end with William. Yeah, I think, again, I have a mixed feeling about that, because I think in some ways that's good, because you really can't hit all your patronages every year. It's just impossible when you have like 900. But at the same time too, I think there is a benefit to somebody saying, I have a royal patron, and that might help them with fundraising and those sorts of things. So it'll be an adjustment period. So they may have to go back. They may find a different system. We will have to see. Liz E says Invictus was good until they left the RF and no longer had people guiding Harry Harry and Meghan tried to make it into a money making instead of being there for the soldiers. Well, the thing is, I think the Invictus game should have always been on the track of it needs to make money. And it needs to make money because it needs to be able to support itself. Because whether or not the RF is there, like, will they have, like, the Duchy of Cornwall, it makes maybe $30 million a year. Some of that is tax. So if it makes $30 million a year, it can't sustain Invictus in the slightest, nor anybody else within the royal family. And the duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster are there for that. And they only make each about $30 million. Well, if you cut that in half, then all the money the royals technically, quote unquote, make goes all to the Invictus Games. So the Invictus Games has to make money. It does. It's not sustainable without making money. The problem is, I don't think they have enough people interested in paying to see it go on. Because you'll notice this with concerts as well, how concerts work and how concerts make money, is that the concert has to sell tickets at a certain price to fill the stadium, and to sell merchandise and beverages and those sorts of things to offset the cost of the concert. So concerts can be very, very lucrative. The Eras tour probably made hundreds of millions, if not, well, really at the end of the day, billions of dollars. And some of that Taylor gets, some of that, the whatever concert company helped put it on, they get that too, the staff and everything. And they'll get that money, but they have to sell tickets. They have to sell tickets at a premium, and they have to have people willing to sell out stadiums each time. Invictus does not have that. And so because of that, it's only every 2 years. It's something where, you really have to have sort of a love or an involvement, I think, with it to really make it a generating, because yes, it's like inspiring to see these people with injuries being able to work through things. But if people, like, it's not as compelling to watch as the Olympics, to be quite honest, and see people at the peak of physicality. It's just not. Anyways, blooming ninja. It says Invictus lost all its fun and joy when Meghan appeared. Her bizarre personality is repulsive. That's 1 to 10 unless you advertise no Meghan. I don't think that's the case. I think there is just a more complexity behind this. So I don't think it's totally Meghan's fault, but it's one of those things, again, like I said, it's just going to have a hard time attracting an audience, because you're not seeing people at the peak of physical fitness, and even the Olympics can't attract an audience. So K Coffee says, I also liked Brittany's video with Dan. I hope they meet up and do a video together in London. It would be cool to do like something short. Chatty Cathy says, hi, Brittany. I honestly believe Arrow is dead in the water beyond repair. Are you aiming that way in your thinking? It's nothing but an empty burger. No, I really do think she wants it to be something. I just don't think it's like she screwed it. I think she screwed it. All right, we have a Fong Yulong from Huntington Beach, California. Hello. I just wanted to remember because I did write down how to pronounce your name and I found my post-it again. So Lisa says, yes, I agree that the Earthshot Prize is international, but don't agree what William is aspiring to be king of the world. That is a crazy thought. Never said it was. Never said he was trying to do that. But I'm just saying that, obviously he's not king of the world. So he's king of the UK. So you can't ignore the UK in expense of trying to change the world or something. It's complicated. All right. Lisa Marie says, when it comes to homelessness, yes, I agree that Prince William can never fix the issue, but at least he's doing something worthy. 100%. Do everything you can. Just recognize that you can't end homelessness. I think is the kind of the notion I have, because if you can't end it and you just keep trying and trying and trying and it's never happening, you may get frustrated with the project rather than just saying, okay, we must do all we can, but we know that there is a factor that we cannot change. So Melody says, yes, he must apologize. How can anyone say he should be forgiven when he hasn't even admitted wrong and asked for forgiveness? Yes, I agree. There can be no change until that happens. Dawn says Invictus has a new CEO, correct? I think they are looking for a new CEO, but I don't think they have announced one yet because I think the old CEO was still there. Casey says, you did a fantastic job interviewing Anne. I'd love to see you have more guests. You shine. Why, thank you. Yes, I need to do more for sure. Water says, your interview with Dan was great. Why, thank you. Chatty Cathy says the same. Mara Up says, I loved your breakdown of the small number of participants in Invictus. It is staggering how little numbers, but that makes too fun this. Yes, I looked and I remember doing the math, and I believe it is based on what the Canadian government was paying. Each Invictus person who participates in Invictus, which is only, I think, like 500 something. Each one of them, the British government or the Canadian government is paying $60,000 for. $60,000. It's a lot of money. Kay Palace says, yes, Diana had a relationship with William, but was more confident than mother-child. Yes. Becky says, good morning, all US RNM fans. Turn back your clock tonight for extra sleep. Oh, that's so exciting. I need extra sleep. And guess who doesn't need extra sleep because she just woke up from her morning nap? Say hi to Miss Pippa, everyone. She has been sleeping pretty much for our entire conversation. She's been sleeping under my desk. Nary a fuss, nary a fuss. Yes, you've been good girl. Yes, you've been good girl. Okay, stop licking my face. She likes to lick my face, and I love her, but at the same time, yeah, you don't need to lick me quite so much. ZZXXYYAABBCC. What did William do wrong? What did Catherine do wrong? What did Charles do wrong against the Ginger and the Winter? I mean, there are always, guys, again, we always see that like people do things wrong on both sides, guys. There's usually not one way. Maybe Catherine Williams should have done something a little bit different in how they interacted with Meghan the first time. Maybe they should have tried to be a little bit more I mean, there's nothing wrong with admitting, hey, maybe I came at this from the wrong way. That's healthy. That's totally healthy. It's totally healthy to recognize that, hey, maybe I didn't do something quite right here. I don't think that's necessarily wrong. And yes, most of the burden resides on Harry. That's not what I'm saying at all, that he's like totally innocent or whatever. But I think so. You also say, I don't see both sides, need to apologize. BS. Please name some things, Brittany. The thing I'm not, if I had more time, I would probably be able to think of some things, but on the spot, I can't think of anything right away. But the thing is, guys, we don't know everything that happened behind the scenes. We don't know everything. And because of that, we don't know what all the mistakes were made. We have Harry's version of events, which I'm sure is actually very different than William's version of events. But like, there is no relationship where like things could have happened on both sides. Maybe Catherine and William weren't as welcoming as they could have been because they were just a little bit standoffish, but they were just trying to get a feel for Meghan, and then they would have embraced her if she had given them a chance to. She didn't give them a chance when they were like a little cold. And I think they were just trying to be cautious. She interpreted it, misinterpreted, I think, as coldness, but I think it was more caution. At some point, William could say, "Hey, we were just trying to be cautious, Harry. It really wasn't an offense." And Harry could go, "Yeah, I totally understand." And like Megan could go, she was a normal person, go, "Yes, I totally understand. Let's just fix it and hug and move on." That is what could have happened. But no, Megan took everything and made everything 1,000 times worse. So, anyways, but I think as always, there it's a variety of things on all sides. Loretta says, my understanding is that there are videos of them as children with their mom. So of course he didn't ignore that Harry was part of that. It would have been weird if he didn't mention Harry. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Again, I haven't had a chance to watch it quite yet, but yeah. P.S. says Harry is going to turn into another Henry VIII with the ladies. Better stay away. He could. He definitely could. Definitely could. Miss Pippa, stop. She's like, why aren't you petting me? You should be petting me or letting me lick your face and mouth. You silly girl. Okay, so Caroline Lane says, how does Harry make a living being a fake royal? He still has to pay the bills. He really can't make a living. He can't make a living unless he starts charging charities for having him attend stuff. Darren says Harry Robert Hartman biography Charles III has 3 new chapters added, explains so much of what is going on with everything. Just been reading about it on the Daily Mail. I do need to get that too, so that would be interesting. Marty says, I think you said both boys should reconcile. Why should William accept his abuser back into his life? Imagine how much William had to deal with that we don't know about. That is true, but I will always lean on the side of reconciliation is a good thing. It is a good thing. It is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. I think William would like it. So yeah. So we have Kristen M. Thank you so much for the tip. I am a 9/11 era Army veteran. Thank you so much, Kristen, for your service. The Invictus games served well for when they were created, but the further time goes on, the harder it is to get people to connect with events from 20-ish years ago. Yes, sadly, I would agree with that as well. Like the fewer conflicts that are going on, like major ones that especially the US or the UK are involved in, like there's obviously what's going on in Ukraine, but that's mostly related to Ukrainian forces. I think the harder it is to get people to engage with it. It just is because it's like it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And as time moves forward, it's just harder and harder and harder. So I 100% agree with you. Thank you so much for your service. It's not that we don't love our veterans or anything like that. It's just it's harder to sell. And that's the reality of the world is like you have to sell something. You have to sell something. And I don't think the Invictus Games is very sellable, to be quite honest. I don't think it's quite that sellable. P Pacific says UK annual autumn celebrates 5th of November. It is bonfire night. We've heard how the Middletons of Via Pippa have a feast, music, and a huge blazing bonfire, also called Guy Fawkes Night. Yes, that would be awesome to see. Yay. Yeah, you excited, Miss Pippa? Yeah, I'm excited because I will, guys, be decorating for Christmas here very, very quickly because I won't get to enjoy my own Christmas decorations for very long. So I shall put them up here. Yes, I shall. Yes, I shall. Look at her. Is she not the sweetest thing? Oh my goodness. Adopt GDX says, good morning, Brittany. I'm interested in your thoughts regarding King stopping financial support for Andrew. Do you believe this is true? We all know it should be happening. Yes, I do think it's true. This has been reported sort of numerous times now by the Times, very, very reputable publication. I think it is something where, yeah, they really do need to cut him off. Like Andrew, like they need to be able to make sure he can pay his bills. I get that. But Andrew has to accept that his time as a royal has diminished and he is done. So he has to move on. And he hasn't done that yet. I think Andrew is still hoping he can make his way back into the fold. He needs to get that up and he needs to find another job. And that's really hard, but yeah. Oh, KK says, I think you looked really cute in your glasses, Brittany. I totally get the eye irritation stuff. Fall time is beautiful, but can definitely bring out seasonal eye stuff. Yeah, and I feel like my allergies get worse and worse like every year. And so I'm like, ugh. Loyal commentator says, I highly suspect there would be a paparazzi shot of the toxic duo walking in a parking lot on the day of the Earthshot Prize. Backgrid bozos. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Okay. Oh, Helen says, "I loved your video with Dan Wooten." Why, thank you. Okay. So let's keep going. So Marty says, "Solving spare syndrome. Would it help if spares were educated in monarchy with heirs, since several spares took the throne in the past, might produce more like Anne and than Harry and Andrew and Andrew and Harry." Not really. It's more nuanced than that, because there's just is a situation where it just becomes frustrating when I think it's like you're so close and yet so far from the throne. And so there's just a dynamic. I don't think education would help, because they do have education lately. Or sorry, I was reading another comment here real quickly. They do have education. They know how the monarchy works. They just don't want to accept it. They just don't want to accept it. And so they kind of make things, I think, more difficult on themselves. So Sharon says, "Why do you think Meghan is so quiet lately?" I don't know. It has been like half a month, but her public reputation still continued to take hit after hit after hit after hit. So we have Aija, sorry, saying, "Hi everyone, finally made it to alive. It has been weeks. It's snowing in Finland." Woo. Melinda says, "Is she looking for her new husband, perhaps?" Could be. Allison says, "Does anyone know what article mentioned Arrow and the brand that Harry and David was?" It was from Richard Eden. Richard Eden. So it might be a newsletter. I'm technically subscribed to the Daily Mail somehow. Because one time I tried to like figure out like how I was being billed, and I like could not find to save my life. And so I was like, I don't know how this works. Because I pay for a lot of subscriptions to different publications so I can read the articles. Ocean Gal says the picture of Harry's office is a photo a newspaper took. Funny that Harry hates the newspaper yet uses their photo. Yep, 100%. Well, they also have fan art that they put up of themselves. Well, really, Megan. Lizzie D says, Brittany will be doing a live commentary of the Earth Shot Award show. I don't know. I might. I don't know. Stephanie says, "If you don't like those frames much, Brittany, why don't you try a different style of glasses next time? I'm pretty sure there's plenty of styles you'd like that look fabulous on it." Actually, I don't look that good in glasses, because I tried to try on some at Costco and I feel like they all look terrible. So, it's just like one of those things I just hate. I just hate wearing glasses overall, because I find them distracting. But yeah, these aren't bad, but. And Matthew says, "Good morning, RNM friends. Made it after attending a memorial mass for All Souls. It's a beautiful, sunny, but crisp fall day in mid-Michigan. Thank you, Brittany, for the content on your channel." You are so welcome. You are so welcome. Helen says, I've never moved out of my parents' house. I love it too much. LOL. That is awesome. And Matthew says, "Great conversation with Dan. Will you meet with him in person too? That would be a fantastic interview. I'm hoping we can meet up in London. That would be fun, just for like don't know what it would be, but it would be cool. It'd be cool." Leela B says, "Oppenheimer was the best historical movie I've seen in a long time. It was really good. I more wish they had focused on the development of the atomic bomb, because there's actually an interesting story, is that Boeing had to actually create a special airplane that could turn as sharply as it needed to avoid the blast. So they had to like test it a lot and fly it a lot, like in the desert, not in New Mexico. I think they were more like up in Utah or Colorado or something. But the team that was going to drop it they had to make a special Boeing plane, and they had to practice the turn, because it had to turn really sharply to get out of the blast radius. And so that would be something, they talked to one of the pilots, I think, in a very brief scene. So it would have been more interesting, I think, to me in some ways, to see, like, I don't like his personal drama quite as much. I didn't really see the point in, like, the sex scene and stuff. I'm like, why is this here? This is not really, but it at the same time too, it was interesting to see how somebody could go from having this great position, you could say, to the fallout of sort of the Soviets and the rise of communism and everything, and how that shaped aspects of the government and stuff like that, and how they got rid of Oppenheimer, how he was, you could say youthful for a season, but because of his connections to communism and everything, there were obvious concerns, and because there was definitely a Soviet spy at Los Alamos who gave the plans for the bomb to the Soviets. So the Soviets developed their bomb not too long afterwards. And then you also have, like, the kind of development of rockets and intercontinental ballistic missiles and those sorts of things, and how that reframed the world in such an interesting way. Because the atomic bomb is a because I did a lot of research on it. It's a very interesting in terms of geopolitics, because once you have an atomic bomb, you're kind of untouchable, because you have this situation where you have the threat of mutually assured destruction. So you have a bomb, the opposing country has a bomb, and so you are at this detente, because you can't force your missile out there without the recognition that you might be hit even harder in return. Now, the danger is, of course, now the Chinese have allegedly developed a hypersonic missile, which could hit us faster than we could hit them back. And that is, of course, a massive glaring concern, because if you have nuclear weapons, everybody's at a detente because everybody's technology base level is the same. Once you elevate it and one country has, let's say, a hypersonic missile that can move faster than a regular missile, and it can have a nuclear tip on it, well, then that changes the dynamics and changes the whole forefront, because we all live in this detente. Why we haven't really had a global conflict is because we could all annihilate the entire planet with nuclear weapons. So it doesn't work. You have to either be absolutely sure you can crush your enemy before they can retaliate against you, so that you have the absolute superiority, or you just have to live in this detente where we all have these smaller conflicts but never result into larger conflicts, because we cannot handle the larger conflicts because we would annihilate ourselves. Because the problem is that if you start a world war using nuclear weapons and you wipe out all the, let's say, overall economic livelihood that everybody relies on, because we're so economically interconnected, that if you blow that up, you risk your own country failing, because you allow this other country that you traded with to also fail, or you force them to fail. Those are that's just part of the kind of dynamic that we see in the world anymore. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on the matter, if you actually hear it. I just find it really interesting. Anyways, Steven said Harry and David, LOP, USP, PTO, so Patent and Trademark Office, no further action. So yeah, they might be, I don't know. I don't know where it's going, but it'll be interesting to see if their challenge goes forward or not. Siba says, calling a king queen your majesty didn't begin until Henry VIII. It's one of the things that the White Queen got right by referring to the king as your grace. Yes, and because there was obviously a connection too between the royals, and there was a connection, especially in the beginning, which has dimmed over time, to like being close to God, because they were kind of not a full shepherd of the flock, because that's not right, but there the stronger the faith was and everything, there was an interesting dynamic there. I was actually reading, because as I was going through trying to work on my spooky royal episode, which you can find a link to. I decided not to make it like fully live, it's unlisted, but you can find a link to it in the community page. And there was an interesting story, and it was so sad, because there were a group of women who were burned at the stake during the reign of I think it was Queen Mary the First. And I put a picture of it in the live stream because I really wanted to find renderings of people being burned at the stake when it came to the reign of Queen Mary, because my initial one was from Henry VIII. But what was so sad, it was like a group of women who were burned to death. And one of them was pregnant at the time and gave birth to her son in the flames. And they said on a plaque, the child was retrieved, but was ordered that he be thrown back in. I'm like, golly, people were horrific to each other. And that's what I mean when I say, yes, we've gotten better on some things, although we put a lot of things on them. But like the depravity of humanity in many ways is really hard to underestimate. Is really quite bad. John Alvarez says, "Hi Brittany, if they get divorced, I think they will give the kids to Harry, who has a bigger family and are royal. The kids need to be saved from this wicked woman from Yonkers." So no, usually generally always women get custody. Women they just do. They just do. So anyways, so that's kind of how things go. All right. Let's JB says mic drop Brittany. I don't know what that was referring to, but hopefully that's good. Water says, I love the piano guys. I want to see Lindsay Sterling too. Nellie says, I listen to classical music. It's soothing. It is. It is. I find it really good. I like music, not noise. That's kind of my general. Not that I don't have like people I would listen to that some people were like, why are you listening to that? But I really enjoy listening to classical stuff. Lexi says, it's freezing here in New Hampshire. Is your Christmas trip going soon? So we are going in December. So, but I will be going early because there's a couple things I want to do. So I shall hopefully, fingers crossed, be very busy. Bernie says, hello, Brittany. Glad I got to watch it live. Why, thank you. Uh, and so Wes says, why is the Sussex squad harassing Brittany in her chat? So disrespectful. I don't know. I've never gotten it because I'm like, go, like, why are you here? Like, go harass somebody else. But I do enjoy sometimes responding to their comments because a lot of them are just ignorant and misinformed. And so it is good to give them some different perspectives. Peeper Jean says, oh my gosh, Brittany, you just remind me so much of one of my nieces. This is music, not noise. I'm sure I've heard those exact words from my nerdy niece. Love it. Why, thank you. Yes. Like, I hate concerts. I love the Piano Guys, though. That was a great concert. I love the music. So good. I love the cello, the sound of the cello. I'm personally a fan of the double reeds. Love all the sounds of the double reeds. So that's the bassoon, oboe, English horn, which is basically a long oboe. You can also get the contrabassoon. You won't see that very much, but it's very, very, it goes so low, it's slower than the piano. So it's the double reed family. Prefer those, but I love the sound of the cello. Cello, I love the deep, deep sound of it. One of my favorites. Georgina says, hello, ma'am. I would like your opinion regarding Harry and Meghan. Who would file for a divorce first? Him or her? Thank you. I love your channel. I'm actually not sure. I would love it if Harry did it just because I think it would be really good for him to take something back into his control, but it might be Meghan. Stephanie Barrett says, Maxima is queen of just one country. So you can't really compare it to the Windsors. Not totally, but she goes and does a lot of different things. So anyways, I see. So yeah, somebody said there's somebody in the chat, but I think they must have gotten blocked because I can't really see any of their comments anymore. So yeah, if there's somebody that is being rude in the chats and stuff like that, best to just go ahead and just block. You know, just don't have a don't engage, just block. Or I think you guys have the option to kind of like report them or something, and that usually actually takes care of it pretty easily. Flower Meerkat says, I'd love Brittany to do a collaboration with Beebs Kelly on Royal Fashion News. Yes, I have thought about that. Anna Surdrone says, Brittany and Dan, always excellent. Thank you. Sandra says, big shout out to Brittany for addressing practically every single chat, whether they are super chats or not. I don't know any other channel that does that. Thank you. I really tried to. I know, guys, I missed some in the middle, but I really tried to hit as many chats as I can. Stephanie says, yes, Invictus has a new CEO. He made a statement about NATO. Old CEO still there. Said NATO, but he hasn't finished up yet. Yeah. Okay. All right, Mad Eye says, Brittany, you should connect with Shauna from Vintage Roadshow. She is wonderful like you too. Why, thank you. So yeah. Yeah, Bobby says she's not wrong. Humanity is inherently selfish. Homelessness won't be ended ever. There are too many people who'd prefer to be addicts than get clean and get into offered housing. It is true. It's like it's just like the unfortunate thing. Kind of like there was an offer one time. Somebody said, "Well, Elon Musk, why don't you end world hunger? Because that's been a thing, end world hunger." And he's like, well, are we not pumping billions of dollars already into like World Food Program and it hasn't ended hunger? So is it that there's not enough food to go around, or is that there's a human factor involved and people are making too much money off of keeping certain things to themselves? It's kind of it. P Pacific, so that's all to say he is not wrong. He couldn't really end world hunger because of the human problem within world hunger, which is that, you know, sometimes things that are meant for a broader population get hoarded by a few and they make money off it, reselling or what have you. So there's a lot of corruption within, you could say, the NGO space in some places. Brittany, I have an idea. Perhaps you could visit Homeworld's UK headquarters for an RNN interview. Find out what they plan and what it is about. It is impressive. Yeah, we will have to see. I know they're very protective usually of the royal stuff. So yeah. Stephanie says, Brittany, the only way to cope and protect yourself from more abuse from a narcissistic partner is there zero contact? So William won't engage with Harry unless he's split from Meghan permanently. I would agree to that so much. Caroline says, is Pippa going back to sleep watching you? She was really studying you. She enjoys you. She enjoys me a lot. She does. She's very sweet. Lila says, are you taking Pippa with you on your trip? I am not, because she is like there's like a long process, and honestly, to have her with me would be a problem. If you long, have you considered doing LASIK? I have. It's just been a while. I've just been so busy, guys. I need to go even do a physical, and I haven't done that yet. Rockin' G Farm says, Brittany, you are so knowledgeable regarding history. If all of our children would be as knowledgeable at history, we would not have the conflict we have today. Let's teach history. Yes, teach history. Don't um um, learn from history, try not to repeat, but we can't totally avoid it. Always find it funny. There's this like really interesting thing. I caught it on the History Channel documentary like way back in the day. Like you guys would be surprised, because obviously pornography is something very prevalent in our world anymore. But like you would think, oh no, they didn't have that in ancient times. It was like they had their own versions of it 100%. Museums around the world are filled with objects that they cannot display because they are too sexually suggestive. So they're in like the vaults underneath the museums, because I don't even remember what show it was. I think in my head it was like Museum After Dark or something, or like, and they're just filled with stuff they can't display. And so it gives, I think, sometimes a false impression of our ancient civilizations, and which I don't think is it's right. Crystal says, Brittany, can you next time you're in California, can a group of us meet up? Oh, please. Yeah, I would like to do that. So we'll have to figure out how to do that. Sometimes my trips in California are so quick that I just don't get time. So we'll have to see. All right. Chatty Cathy says, I report and block. Got your back, Brittany. Why, thank you. Yes. And that does seem, if you do that, that does seem to clear up any kind of trolling issues whatsoever. So like don't engage too much. If I see them, I try to share some good perspectives with them. Jazzy Sock says, Brittany, I really want you to visit dance studio when you are in the UK. Hopefully we can make that happen. Yes, Siva says there are explicit paintings on the wall in Pompeii. Yes, I actually went to the brothel in Pompeii. They took us in there, and you could actually see some of the paintings on the wall. So, which was very cool. I highly recommend going to Pompeii. I didn't go to Herculaneum. I don't know how much you could see of that, but Pompeii, they've only excavated actually part of it. And there were actually packs of wild dogs there, if you are curious. Rinya says, hello. Oprah thought Meghan Markle was, I thought Meghan Markle was not allowed at the Invictus Games, saw the veterans made a petition to keep her out. I haven't seen that anything official, so I would say that's kind of probably not official. So guys, we will go ahead and wrap this up here because I have something to do this afternoon. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed it, and we shall see you guys again here next weekend. So excited. So again, guys, I will see you very, very soon. Bye.